Hello everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to the Kill Corner Club podcast. This is episode 54. My name is James, and I'm joined, as always, by Tyler.
As always, how's it going, mate?
It's going great. Really good.
Okay, yes, now you've got to introduce the...
Sorry. Anyway, today we're joined by two special guests. The first being Nick, or Aftermath.
Yeah,
Welcome.
boy, what's up?
It's... the fuck? The fuck was that?
Dude, I don't know.
You're not from Harlem, you can't talk like that.
Yeah, boy, what's up?
I'm out of podcasting shape, a little podcasting rusty, so let's roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
wonderful. And we're also joined, but were you just going to try and steal that one from me?
I was. You paused for
Sorry,
a bit,
I took a drink because I wasn't sure how long Nick was going to go for there. But it was shorter than I expected. We're also joined by Loomer. I mean, that's it, isn't it? It's just Loomer. Welcome, Loomer.
What? What's me? Just Loomer.
As we've dubbed him,
Loomer. It's all he needs. It's just Loomer.
The
He's that special.
of Assassin's Creed community. As
Hello.
we've dubbed. So this is a surprise for everybody because I said, at the time we're recording this last night, I tweeted out that Nick was joining us. So this is a surprise to me, a lovely surprise, I will say, to wake up and James inform me that you'll be joining us, Loomer, today. So that's very exciting for all of us and for all the people.
Sure.
So thanks for coming on, man. I'd thank you, Nick, but you're kind of just the third co-host at this point, aren't you?
Oh!
Yeah.
Cool. We're good. I can't tell if that's throwing shade. Or,
when have I ever
chill?
thrown shade? When have I ever thrown shade at you, Nick? Ever?
I'm sure you're right. Actually, I don't think that's happened very often.
Yeah, no. Except when I'm telling you to just shut the fuck up so we can start the podcast. Other than that, yeah, fantastic. All right, so today, ladies and gentlemen, listening to the Kill Corner Club, if you don't know and you're listening to this and you're like, these guys are fucking hilarious, I'd love to get more of these. You can get more of these awesome podcasts. Just head over to patreon.com/asalways. For $1 a month, you can become an As Always member, get exclusive podcast content. That's the Kill Corner Clubhouse on every week. The Kill Corner Club isn't on with James, myself, and the awesome patrons over there. Nick, you've even been on one of those Clubhouse podcasts, one of the very special ones.
Oh, yes, it was very special. I enjoyed it very much.
Very special.
Definitely recommend.
So we'd like to sit here and thank some of those supporters over on Patreon. We have Ben or Modorox. We have Quizhek. We have...
It's Sandbag.
Sandbag renamed his name Chandler Bing. Thanks, Sandbag. All right, we have Josh Devillier, Xeno Rheao, Damian, Lumistrad. TheHumbleWorm has moved up his pledge, so thanks, bro.
Oh, yeah.
We have Nimbus, Seth, Tom Cunningham, Oscar, RAVJAI, Zach Neely, son of a bitch, Ogeaidogo, you motherfucker, Tyler Tranter, Yazen, Brendan Orbeek, Overlord, and Pink Flame 313. Thanks, you sweet vintage lads, for being awesome patrons over at As Always. So that's the housekeeping out of the way, guys. Thank you for surviving that.
Always be selling.
Always be selling. That's it. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Okay. So the main thing that has been going on recently within the community, that's the big reason we wanted to talk to you guys today. I thought we might as well get this out of the way before we get into some more fun stuff. We can have fun later. Business first. Business first. No fun for a while. I feel like a parent.
End on a high note. End on the high note. So, the announcement of the Assassin's Creed Mentors Guild came out within the community, and this new initiative, I'm probably the least qualified person to explain this. So, James, do you want to kind of explain what this generally is? Like, for sure, I don't even do YouTube anymore and don't know, but like, yeah.
Okay. Well, you've definitely come to the right person for an unbiased opinion on the Mentors Guild. So that's fantastic. I mean, essentially, for anyone that doesn't know, it's essentially this thing that Ubisoft has set up with a few community members in different areas, whether that be cosplaying or people that run like blogs or content creators on YouTube, in order to, I suppose, work as a gateway between Ubisoft and the overall community in order to gain feedback and get a bigger insight on the community by having these 8 people that work as the mentors. That's essentially the main concept.
10 people, actually.
Is there 10?
Yep.
Yeah, that's 10. Even I knew that, James. Fuck.
Well,
probably should have gone to someone else for the answer then.
Well, I'm just gonna say I miscounted. I have dyslexia. I don't have dyslexia, but I mean, whatever. The reason I said 8 is because they showed a picture and there was 8 in the picture, so I was like, 8. Who's the other 2? Like, you knew the 8 I was thinking of.
I don't know who the 8 you're thinking
of.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's true.
I don't know who they were either, but. All right. Well, cool. There's 10 of them. There's 10 of them.
So I guess I feel like this is a good group to kind of talk to about this, because obviously you have different various opinions here on the spectrum of opinions. We have obviously Nick. You were once very involved with the Assassin's Creed subreddit. In fact, you were. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that you would have been one of these people if you were still doing. The moderating on the subreddit. I was invited. You were.
I was invited.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we could. I wasn't sure if we could say that.
Montreal.
Yeah, that's why we've been pretty vague about it.
Yeah.
I don't think I signed an NDA about being invited.
Okay, that's true.
So.
Yeah. Sure.
They did ask me to come to the Montreal trip in January. I wasn't made aware that it was leaked to something like this. That, as far as I know, they were just creating a community-based thing. But I ended up declining that. And kind of withdrawing from the overall community. And I suggested that they should take Tyrell instead, or perhaps Fred, the other AC subreddit moderator, to cover the Assassin's Creed subreddit side of the community if I couldn't make it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have sour grapes over here, James. So that's one.
I'm sorry. Did you just use that's a Connor line? That is.
Yeah. No, I know. I thought I was gonna say salt, but then I thought it'd be more funny if I used a Connor quote.
Oh my god.
I suppose that's fitting. Whatever. Yeah. Sure. Sure.
From one end of the spectrum, no, I'm just fucking with you, James. You know I love you. And then we've got, and obviously we have Loomer, who, as I said, we introduced him. James couldn't bother giving him the nickname, but I'll say the Godfather of the Assassin's Creed community.
I don't know about that, but
I agree completely. Actually, that sounds very funny.
Just take it.
It's the correct title, isn't it?
I give it to you. I give it to you.
Okay.
Who you talked about? You are going to be a part of this Mentors Guild, or you were going to be, or like, I'm not quite sure. Do you want to explain your involvement, your relationship with it?
Sure. So I've, for those of you who don't know me, I've been doing Assassin's Creed stuff, mainly on my YouTube channel since like 2011. And I've done a lot of Mentors Guild-esque things over the years. Like, I've been going to E3 every year since 2012 to help cover the brand and to be an ambassador for it. I visited Ubisoft Montreal in 2014 for the launch of Unity, got to talk to like a bunch of developers there. I provided written feedback based on various topics that they've asked me to provide feedback on. And I'm actually part of what's called the Keepers of the Code, which is kind of like a Mentors Guild, but for Skull and Bones, which is the naval spin-off of Assassin's Creed. And so it's a group of us, and we went to Singapore in May, and we got to like play test a whole bunch for several hours, talk to the devs, do some workshop feedback. It's not exactly the same as the Mentors Guild, but it's actually really similar. And my position with the Mentors Guild is that I talked to the community people when I was at E3 this year, and the idea is basically that they want me to be in the group, but there's kind of like some logistical hurdles because there's a little bit of confusion within Ubisoft about who technically manages me, I guess, or like who is in charge of being in contact and doing stuff with me. And so there's like almost like a turf war between digital marketing and the community team. And this isn't like the first time that this has happened. Like those two groups overlap a lot on like, it's very much like things like the Assassin's Creed Twitter handle. It's like which one of those two groups should be in charge of that. Like that's something you can make an argument for on either side. And so I put out a tweet, and I feel like I should probably address this since you mentioned it in your video, James.
Yeah. Sure.
But like I put out a tweet that said, someone had asked me if I was a part of the mentors group, and I said, short answer, no. Long answer, no, but maybe later, and it involves some bureaucratic stuff that I probably shouldn't be surprised by at this point. And I think you and some other people, because I was kind of vague about it and pretty much nobody knows what I was referencing, which I realized after I tweeted it out, is what I'm referencing is like this internal like politics between like Ubisoft teams and stuff. And there's like a lot of examples of this that I've found over the years. And so basically, we're hoping to get me into the group maybe in the next wave or two, but who knows if it's actually going to happen then or what. I can't say for sure, but the idea is I think that eventually it would be like that. But it's not, so that's pretty much the status on my
Was the main political problem you're just like, Mentors Guild, I'm kind of above that, I'm the Godfather? Is there any way
exactly.
You can somehow create like a crown and a throne for me, then I'll show up. Is that, we can say that's the official story.
I'm headcanoning it. That's
I gave them my list of demands with all the like only brown M&Ms removed, and they kind of balked at that a little bit, and they're like, maybe we'll get in the next wave.
Maybe we'll get in the next wave, yeah. And next time you show up, you'll be like, where's my throne? Where is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so I mean, my history with interacting with the people at Ubisoft and everything, and the fact that I've talked to the community team a little bit about the program, and I've met everyone pretty much involved, and I knew most of them beforehand too, I think puts me in a pretty good position, I think, to kind of argue the side of the pro Mentors Guild side of this argument. Although I do want to make it very clear that I am in no way speaking for anybody in the Mentors Guild or for Ubisoft. These are just my own opinions, but that's kind of the perspective I'm coming from for this.
Oh, awesome.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
which is, and I'm glad I want to have like a variety of perspectives to understand this, because I feel like I guess I'd be coming at this as a bit of an audience perspective that's not quite as, I guess, I don't know, invested, right, in their life as someone like, James or something like that, so I can kind of see all these different perspectives, see the pros and the cons, because obviously there's pros and cons on both ends, as there is for anything. So I guess, I mean, since you were just walking us through this, Loomer, why don't you talk to us kind of about the way you see the guild working and the pros and cons you see with having, I guess, a community group that is, I mean, I don't want to use, it's not like it's above everyone else, but for people that might feel that way, feel as though from an audience perspective, like they're just a viewer, they're just like, oh, I don't understand, like, if they don't know someone, how do they get in contact with these people, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, there's a few things. I think there's a few ways we could kind of look at the concept, and one is I'm curious to hear like from you guys is if you think is it more the fact that they handpicked these people, or are you against the idea of this whole program in general?
There's a few things, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I talked about this before, as I think I'm against. I think the entire idea as a whole, I think. It makes sense in a way, but I think if it's community-based, I feel like the community should be in charge of the community, whereas to me, it just feels very Ubisoft-controlled. Like, Ubisoft are like, okay, so here's the community, and then they're like, okay, so these are people that you look up to in the community, and people in the community are like, why? Like, why are these people, like, people we should look up to? I don't understand. Like, I mean, if they're given a position at Ubisoft, like, is like, the same way community managers are sort of, in that way, then it makes sense to me because they represent Ubisoft, not the community. But when Ubisoft pick people to represent our community, I think that's a bit strange. But if they're representing Ubisoft, then I think it makes sense because it's just a gateway, and the people picked by Ubisoft to represent their company in order to have a gateway between Ubisoft and the community, then I think that's fine. But I mean, I do think it's strange that they picked all the people from the community that would be involved in this. And I'm not saying I want to be involved. I'm just saying that I think the community should have the choice in the people that represent them. And I mean, I think I had a point then. I just completely lost it. But
is it just the fact, James, that I mean, because I think I agree with you on a lot of things, James. I just think the biggest one for anything is, and it's very political in a way, like on a very small scale, obviously, in the sense of I just don't like it just doesn't make sense to me, because community on any game franchise, whether it's a Ubisoft brand or any game brand or any TV show, the community is exactly that. It's the community. It literally has zero to do with the company that puts it out. You know, when you're a creator of any sort of content, once you release it into the world, it becomes everybody else's. It's no longer yours. So what happens to it is then up to the people, I guess, the consumer. And I just don't think, like James said, it's a group. Once Ubisoft puts a community group together, they're no longer a community group. They're a Ubisoft group. So I just think the wording, the biggest problem I see just is the wording. I feel actually bad for the people in the guild, because they're the ones who are kind of being thrown to the wolves in that way, because it's not like it was just James that had a disagreement with it. I saw so many different people and listeners and audience members that were confused and upset about how this is really worded, how this is run, and who, you know, that sort of thing.
So I would say to start, I think the name of the project / group is a little problematic with Mentors Guild, and you guys have kind of touched on this too. I think for me, I think one of the main issues is that the mentors are very highly respected figures in the Assassin's Creed lore, right? And like, you know, if you think about the most prominent ones, it's like Altair, Ezio, like Atabai, and like Machiavelli, and like all these people, and it's like a position that basically commands respect. And so I get the feeling that a lot of the negative that a lot of the negative perception around this feels like Ubisoft is saying, here's 10 people that you need to respect, or like, and I think that's also kind of where the hierarchical thing comes from too, because mentors are the head of their respective like assassin, you know, groups, right? And so I think that's really, so from their perspective, I believe, from what I've read, they chose the name because mentors are kind of not really because of those reasons, but because mentors kind of are in charge of, not really, they help guide other people. Like part of their role is to kind of pass along knowledge to other people. And in the same way, I think they want to kind of help be a conduit, you know, one of the ways, one of the kind of gateways between Ubisoft and the fans. And then also they're generally kind of leaders or pioneers in their respective areas, and they're able to help people who might have questions or need guidance in their areas, you know, whether it's cosplaying or video creation or anything like that. And so I think you have to really approach the name, which I think has is responsible for a good chunk of the negative ill will. Then you have to approach it from the mindset of these are people that Ubisoft thinks can help other people, and not necessarily that they are here are some people who will lead you and be people that you respect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so the other thing I would point out is with what you guys are saying, where it's like Ubisoft like picks these 10 people to like represent the community, but community should be more like grassroots and all that. And I totally agree with that. But what I would argue is that let me back up. I think your argument would make a lot more sense if Ubisoft were actively trying to censor and shut down anybody that wasn't a part of their community. But the broader community still exists, right? Like you guys still have like your channel, I still have my channel. We have our own sub-communities within them. We still put out content. There's no way they'd be able to stop people from creating content and making their own communities. And they wouldn't want to either, of course. This is just kind of, I think you have to think of it as kind of this subgroup within the larger community. And the special property is that this subgroup is affiliated with Ubisoft, and so they're able to, help facilitate access to certain, giveaways for people, or provide help, or report stuff from Ubisoft, or pass down cosplay references. And kind of some people in this group are also actively charged with gathering feedback either from the forums or the subreddits and providing it to Ubisoft. But it's all just within like the larger Assassin's Creed community, and in no way are they trying to make the Mentors Guild the one and only Assassin's Creed community. And I think that's the key point behind the idea of, oh, they're picking like these 10 people and it's only these people that will represent the community. I mean, everybody that's on the community team in Assassin's Creed, like Stephanie, Grace, Sansan, Laura Lee, like they all have Twitters, and there's nothing stopping anybody from tweeting them or Ashraf or Darby or like, well, Darby's not an AC anymore, but you know what I mean? Like,
don't say that.
These aren't,
don't remind us.
Yeah, like these aren't they aren't making this the exclusive gateway between fans and the developers. There are, like I said, there are people within this group that are tasked with gathering feedback and everything, but by no means are they going to be the sole source of feedback. And it's not like they've shut off communications from everyone else.
That's true, but I do think there's a couple things, and I mean,
sure.
I mean, not necessarily with the Mentors Guild, because I completely get what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think that there's some things that Ubisoft do, such as they have their like Codex show or whatever that is, where they kind of report on like community news, and you can bet, you know, a ton of money that myself or like Fishy or Longed Fox or Tyler, Kill Corner Club, we will never be included in any of that, or stuff that you know, the Mentors Guild is going to be, you know, covering and reporting on regarding the community. You know, like when they did community highlights, you know, there's a bunch of stuff, but there was never any notice. Not that it matters to me, because obviously I don't do it to get noticed, but, you know, there was no mention of, oh, you know, Lasers streamed 24 hours to raise, you know, over £1,000 for charity playing the Ezio collection. There was no mention of that. And it's like, it's not that it matters to me, it's just that I feel that there's parts of the community that could get excluded in terms of coverage when Ubisoft have control over things like that. And I think that could be something that, you know, I mean, you know, it doesn't bother me too much, but I think it's just a thing that's there, you know what I mean?
I think there's a sense of, like when you said, Loomer, no one's gonna, it's not possible to censor us, but in some sense, I mean, we've accepted this for a long time as well. Don't get me wrong. Get me wrong. We're no stranger to this. We're not surprised by this. But whenever we see this stuff, we always get kind of defensive, because we do feel. I know I felt in the past. I don't really feel it right now, because I'm not really that involved other than this podcast, which you know, which I care so much about. It just. It is sort of feels like, and always has for example, what James just said about the streaming and for 24 hours playing Ezio collection and everything. I'm telling you right now, there's no way they don't know he does that. James has a bigger audience than the entire, you know, Mentors Guild. You know what I mean? Or other than probably AC Universe. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way they don't know he exists. So it's not like. It's not like back when, you know, let's say I started my YouTube channel and I was trying to like send a video to like anybody who would watch it, where I'm like, oh, maybe they just didn't see it, or, you know, I'm just too small. It's like, I know they see James's stuff. So it does in a sense, there is always a concern that when they get the chance that they'd censor him. I think that as his friend, that's what I think.
So, well, I mean, censoring is...
Not censoring, that's probably the wrong word.
Clarify, censoring is just from official Ubisoft channels. Obviously, like, you guys have been really successful despite not being featured, like, by Ubisoft stuff, right? And that is 100% a result and proof that they are, in fact, not censoring things, right?
But that's kind of my point. Sorry, censoring's the wrong word. I want to say I won't even use the word excluded, just kind of like...
I totally get what you're saying. From what I understand, I think your issue is they say here are the people that we think represent the AC community, and we think we've covered a lot of different areas, and it provides a good overall picture. And you guys are saying there's at least our corner of this community that has no representation, and there may be others as well. And you're a little bothered by that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so in a sense. I mean, it's not like it bothers me that much. I mean, it's not like I need them to do it. It's just a thing that it's like it always happens. And I mean, I suppose I get why. It's, you know, it's just because our community doesn't necessarily align with, you know, possibly the way that they perceive things and want to talk about things, and they're just kind of like, you know, I mean, it's, you know, whatever.
Yeah, no, No, I totally get it. I think this is a little difficult because obviously I can't speak for Ubisoft and I don't speak for Ubisoft.
Of course.
But at the same time, like I can understand. I think I've been involved with a lot of community stuff with Ubisoft for a long time. Like I know kind of like what they're looking to cultivate in their community and everything. And this Mentors Guild has gone through a few iterations that never got off the ground that I had talked about that I had talked with Ubisoft about for a while. And I think this is just my like pure conjecture, like just me musing aloud. But I think you're probably right, and I'm sure they're aware of what you guys are doing and the things that you do. But at the same time, you guys have built this particular corner of the AC community has kind of built their brand a lot on kind of irreverence, and I don't know how to describe it, but let's say when it comes to talking about like Assassin's Creed, like, okay, so irreverence, like example number one, we're on the Kill Connor podcast club, right? Like,
yeah.
And like, and in other ways, sometimes you guys give good constructive feedback, which is more what they're looking for, but other times, like, you guys aren't afraid to just say like this game was this thing was shit.
Sure.
And like they fucking
and
did
it is partly for we are entertainers
comedy
as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, if we're going to be constructive and we want to get when we want to give feedback, we'll be as constructive as possible. But sometimes, like, not everything we do is trying to get feedback. Sometimes we're just like, let's just do whatever people think is funny, and so we'll exaggerate in that sense.
And I mean I think that's a big part of your brand. I think it's really smart. You guys have obviously found a really like sizable and good audience for that as well. But you can't always have your cake and eat it too, because there's also downsides to that. And when Ubisoft puts together a group of people that say these are the people that we are holding up as kind of examples, because part of the Mentors Guild thing is to also inspire people to get involved in various aspects of things like cosplay or video creation or everything. And the mentors are kind of meant to be, these are kind of prime examples of what we think are like good representations of the Assassin's Creed community. And I think when the line gets crossed sometimes from like constructive feedback to just kind of like shitting on things, which like to be totally clear, I've done this in the past too, although I've tried to do it less recently. I think it's hard for them to, you have to look at it from like Ubisoft's perspective, I think, right? And think about like, do we want to tell the Assassin's Creed community that this is the type of feedback we're looking, or these are the types of comments we're looking to get. And then there's another aspect of this where like you talk about like being aware of doing stuff. Like there's a lot of good stuff like you guys have done that would totally be shareable, and stuff like the streaming for charity and everything. But there's also times like James, like, like, yes, you've done like the live streaming for charity stuff, but there's also times like I've seen on Twitter, like where you're like totally just, I don't know, like making fun of, or like,
you can say whatever, just go for it.
Well, honestly, it honestly feels like cyberbullying to me for like people like Claudia, who is just like this really, really enthusiastic AC fan, right? And like I get that it's totally easy to kind of mock like how some fans can get, and like because it looks like they just don't, they'll just accept anything from Ubisoft and like praise it with open arms and everything. And the dude's just like a really passionate like guy who's just full of love and life. And like I think if people at Ubisoft see something like that in your Twitter feed, like where you're mocking someone like that who's a part of the community and everything, like you can disagree with his viewpoint and the way that he treats the series and everything, and that's totally fine. But like I think things like that I think you'll find that they will actively undermine any good that you do for the community, because if Ubisoft is going to put you up as a mentor, you can't just put up parts of someone, right?
Yeah, sure.
You're putting up the entire person. And so I really think you have to look at it from the perspective that you guys do a lot of good stuff for the community, and I'm sure Ubisoft appreciates the good stuff like the live stream and everything, but that there's also kind of more negative aspects, some more negative than others, I would say, but others that just kind of wouldn't be what they want to promote as the ideal behavior for people looking to get into the community.
That makes sense.
I think
that makes sense.
And so it's unfortunate. At the same time, it doesn't stop you guys from being successful or having like a good AC community or from creating content or anything. It just means that you can't be the representatives. And again, this is 100% just me, and it might. You're
probably putting it far nicer than they would, so don't worry about it. Let's just...
But like, this is just from like how I've seen them like work with their community projects and everything. I would guess it's probably something along those lines. And unfortunately, I think it's this whole irreverent corner of the community, right? And it's just, they're not actively trying to like stamp it out or anything, but they can't really prop it up either.
Yeah, sure. I get what you're saying. I think one thing I think though is, as much as what you're saying, I completely understand. Like I've said, I don't think that, like, by me, because I think a lot of people have said, like, by me, you know, saying bad things or negative things about the Mentors Guild, they're saying, like, well, why do you think you should be in it? I'm like, I don't think necessarily I should be in it. But then, like, there are certain ways I act, which I agree that a company that's, you know, like Ubisoft would, of course, not want to promote. And if I was, you know, the Ubisoft, I wouldn't either. But I think that's like, you know, I think to be honest, as much as, you know, people within the community that I'm in will fall sort of in the same category of things that I do, I feel like I'm kind of the one that does a lot of those things. And people like Ethan, to me, I don't even think, like, he's incredibly
so nice.
Yeah,
so nice. It's ridiculous.
He's never done anything that I've done. He doesn't do the shit that I say on Twitter. He doesn't say that kind of stuff in videos, and he never gets any sort of, you know, kind of stuff. And I think that's because he's friends with me, and, like, you know, they kind of just think, oh, you know, that kind of that side of the community with Lasers and Fishy and Long-Haired Fox and Dynamite and everyone. It's like, I've never heard Tyler say half the shit I say ever. He's super professional, and, like, obviously he's always going to be grouped in with me because of the podcast, and obviously
but
Ethan
I've always said that, James. I've always said I'm loyal to my friends. I'll go down with the fucking ship. I don't give a shit.
Sweet lad.
I don't care about that.
Sweet lad. I'm so actually that just sidetrack 1 minute. I'm really happy, Loomer. You actually called Ashraf a sweet lad for me in your little interview Q&A you did with him.
I did, yeah.
Oh, you don't know how happy that made me.
So great. I really appreciate this conversation, by the way, Loomer. Like, it's just good to have honest discourse about this in a lot of
100%.
ways, because, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like, and this is from what you were talking about before, like James said, just to kind of echo that, neither of us would, if you had told me, like, oh, they're going to make a Mentors Guild, there's not a single percentage of me that would think maybe we'll be in it. Like, at no point did I ever think that, like, that we would be involved in that. I know what we do and you know, how we're looked at. There's no problem. I think it was more of just like, whenever anything happens, just a natural sense of this kind of like, there's just like that little backhanded, like, you just feel like you've just kind of got that little backhanded slap.
Yeah.
We know we never get involved.
It's a reminder that,
it's a reminder.
Yeah. And it's like it's little things.
We get why. We know why. We know why.
There's little things like people won't reply to me on Twitter, and I'm like, you know, just give me a quick tweet back. Like, that'd be all right. You know, it's like people just ignore me and they'll, like, kind of push me away, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, sure, I kind of get it, I guess, but, like, it's a bit sad.
But I also think there is I just like we're talking to you right now, Loomer, I just love better discourse between us, whether it's publicly or privately, with people, certain people within Ubisoft, to understand, like, look, you may not like us, but the reality is, yeah, we're always real, but we're just exaggerated. Not James. I know James pretty damn well at this point. After 3 years now, this podcast is actually the 3-year anniversary of the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Oh shit, it is. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just remember that. And the reality is, James is a super nice guy. But he's almost a character. The brand has become a character, and we are entertainers, and we do stupid shit, and we talk way too much shit that we should. But that is the reason we built the audience. So we just kind of you steer into it. But the audience came from us just, you know, our biggest podcasts that we've ever done are with James, myself, George, Long-Haired Fox, and Ethan Fishy. Like, just the 4 of us just talking mad shit for 3 hours. By far the biggest downloads we've ever had on the podcast. More than with any Ubisoft people or Victoria Atkin from Assassin's Creed Syndicate. It's just the 4 of us talking mad shit, having a laugh, just having friends having a good time. So in a sense, like, that is kind of our brand. I just wanted to clear that up. Like, don't get me wrong, I know when we didn't expect to be involved. There is just that little bit of, we're just not sure. We worry. We always get defensive, like, are they trying to censor us? I don't think they are, but you always just, as soon as you hear there's a Mentors Guild, you're like, what are they trying to do to us? What does that mean for us specifically? We're being selfish here when we talk about this.
Yeah, I don't think you should really read into that any further than just, I don't think they're actively trying to do anything for you.
No,
like against you or
I know
anything
what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also totally get the I totally understand, and I can see like the whole playing up the performance aspect. But it's like I said earlier, it's kind of a case of like you can't really use that as an excuse, right? Because you know, at the end of the day, it is what you choose to do. And I don't know, I thought one of the best quotes in Batman Begins is the fact that like it's not who you are underneath, but it's what you do that defines you. And it's really true. Like to other people, you can like. I'm trying not to invoke any politics here. Like, you can say whatever you want about who you are as a person, but your actions are always going to really define who you are to other people. And yeah, so it's also like when you talk about
which we've had to accept because it's not like we ever sit here and make excuses like we're playing up. This is the first time I've ever really said that. You know, we never ever make an
and that's the thing is that's for the like. I mean, my whole argument against it was because the community was like that when it got announced. I got so many people messaging me talking about it, and I was like, I'm not gonna make a video on this. Like, I don't need to. But so many people ask me to, I'm like, okay, I guess I just will go for it because so many people agreed with what I said, and like no one agrees with what I say, so I just kind of had to go for it. But like, it's like I say, it's not like I was saying this is bad and I should be part of it. I'm just saying, you know, for the community, not necessarily for me, because I don't ever think I should be part of, you know, anything. And like I've said before, like with people saying, oh, you should be a star player, I'm like, I don't want to be a star player. Like, I won't ever be, but I also don't want to be, just because I don't know, I guess it's just not who I am. It's just one of them things where it's just a bit weird. And, like, I don't know. It wouldn't fit with me. Being a star player would be really weird. So, you know, it's those kind of things.
Yeah. And totally, you know, playing up, like, kind of your personality, like, exaggerating your personality is honestly par for the course in YouTube and Twitch land. Like, pretty much everyone does it in one way or another, usually.
Yeah, sure.
It's just how it is. And so I totally get it. But like, so I guess going back a little bit earlier to stuff like you mentioned Ethan, and unfortunately I'm not too familiar. I think is that EJ Woodgates, I guess.
Fishy.
He changes his name every other day.
Never keep up. It's all right.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to talk about like or to kind of theorize about situations like that because you say like he's like never really done anything bad, but I mean, I think my argument for the program kind of would speak to kind of the broader scenario of this is like I think it's a thing worth pursuing. I think it's worth doing, and I think people are gonna like you're guaranteed that you're not gonna be able to pick just 10 people and have everybody happy with exactly that group of 10 people. And it's entirely possible, I think, that someone like Ethan could totally come in at a later time, right? They're looking to expand it beyond 10 people, bring in more people. You have to also remember that in the category of people who make YouTube videos, which is kind of mostly the people that we know and that we think about when we're talking about mentors, those only make up 2 of the 10 slots that they have for mentors in there. It's literally just taken up by Clement White 24 Room from AC Universe.
Yeah.
And Sinfully Riddling, who's a Twitch streamer. And like literally those are the only 2 YouTubers / streamers that they have right now. And so it's totally possible that they could broaden it as well. But there's also, I think the other argument I would want to make is that I think they've actually done a really good job of picking the right people to start with. Do I think it's like the 10 most group. Diverse group, but also like the people themselves. I know a lot of them. Like I think it's like the exact 10 best, absolute 100% 10 best people they could have picked for the role? Probably not, but I don't think anybody will agree to that, but I don't think that should stop them from trying. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the other thing I would point out is that I know that there's been a little bit of disgruntlement, like with you guys in your audience and like some other people as well, to be like we haven't even heard of like most of these people, and I totally get that. And part of it is, like I said, because 80% of the group is not involved with like the YouTube community, which is where you guys are based, right? But at the same time, like, just because you haven't heard of someone doesn't mean that they aren't perfect for their role. And some of these people, like, I could go down the list, but like just an example, Seema Philip represents the Assassin's Creed wiki. He's the head of the wiki. He was actually one of my guests on my very first podcast that I ever hosted myself. It was a discussion of the Lost Archive DLC for Assassin's Creed Revelations, which had just come out like back in 2012. And he was on there, and the dude is like, I've known him since then, and he is a walking, basically
he's a walking encyclopedia.
He is an anthropomorphic like Assassin's Creed encyclopedia. Like he is absolutely someone that you want to have representing the community and being able to like talk with the devs about the lore, what's going right, what's going wrong, everything like that. All these other people like you bring up like the cosplayers, and the cosplay, I think one of the things you have to understand about the group too is that it's not meant to be we need 10 people with the largest audiences. There are a couple people in there who were brought in, probably mostly the video creators and the content creators. Those people are brought in at least partially, I think, because of their audiences. It's true, to help like disseminate messages and content from Ubisoft. But I think the majority of people in that group are not necessarily there because they have large followings, and it's because each of these things has a different role. And so, the role of a cosplayer in there is to make sure that the needs of the cosplay community are communicated directly to Ubisoft, and so they can make sure that corner, which is an important corner of the Assassin's Creed community, is being met. And then you have other people like Colpreet, who I met at the Assassin's Creed Unity launch. She was with me in Montreal, who was awesome, and just like really like, she does cosplay, but she's also just a really enthusiastic fan, and she's got a really magnetic personality. She's great on camera, and she and Alex are the quote unquote reporters. Like that's their role in the Mentors Guild. And if you watch the E3 wrap-up video that's on the Ubisoft YouTube channel, you'll see them hosting and doing a really damn good job, if I'm being honest. Like, they do a really good job of hosting this wrap-up video, kind of taking you through the Ubisoft booth, the press conference, and everything. And so it's, I think the way that they rolled this out was really, unfortunately, not done very well. In addition to the naming problem that I discussed earlier, but also in communicating, they released like a list of the 5 different groups and the 2 people within each group, and it explains kind of like what everybody's role is in the Mentors Guild. And I think that goes a long way towards kind of making sense of things for people who are like, why are there all these people like I haven't heard of? Like, what are they there for? Like, what are they doing? And so it's a little bit of a shame, but I think things make a bit more sense once you see that list and you understand the people involved. I think I had known probably about 7 out of the 10 mentors before I went to E3. And then when I was at E3, I met pretty much everybody. And I can vouch for pretty much every single one of them is just perfect for their position that Ubisoft has given them. And that's not to say that there aren't other people out there who also would have been perfect, or maybe even slightly better in a case or 2 or something, maybe, but that's all just subjective opinion anyway. But like, I think, I don't know if there's much more I wanted to say on that, but it was just another part of kind of like the negative feedback I had heard from like you and like your audience and other people as well, that I thought might just be like a kind of miscommunication thing more than like a fundamental opposition.
Yeah, this is why you're the godfather, though, is because you can come to the, as you said, the reverent side of the community and kind of be like, guys, calm down. And we're like, oh shit, sorry, yeah, you're right. But also, speak, not, like you said, you're not speaking for anybody, but kind of give, various perspectives on, make people think. It's like, I've met him, trust me, this and that. And the way you explained it with, maybe it wasn't the best way it was rolled out. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's transparency. And in this day and age, all audiences and communities want is transparency. And I think that's such a great part. I think what I'm happy to boost up about ourselves is what our podcast does and our side of the community does is we're always maybe a bit too much so sometimes the things you talk about in terms of transparency and just will say anything. And, sometimes that's to our own detriment, but, it is what it is. So people just really wanted to just have all the information right out at once as soon as that was rolled out. So I think that was kind of the only real stitch up, I guess, with that. But Nick, you've been super quiet.
Yeah, sorry. I know I've been rambling a lot, but totally happy
it's
pass
been
the
awesome.
baton here.
It's been awesome. I'm just worried. I'm like,
Would love
Nick,
to hear.
are you still there?
I actually did go away for some time, but I am back.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like, for sure he's gonna like walk up and be like, what the fuck is this? Nick, I want to hear from you. Is there anything?
Dude, I don't have anything to add.
You really don't. You've got nothing. You got nothing for me.
Like, I had a list of things I wanted to say, and you guys covered every single one.
Is there?
So,
is there anything? So, okay, wow. There's nothing. You got nothing. Okay.
dude, like, actually, no. Like, I can see what they're trying to do. The name, of course, is a flaw. Like, but they're trying to bridge all of the community and bring different sides of the community together, as well as bring the community closer together and bring the community closer together with Ubisoft as well. I can see what they're trying to do. It's obvious to me. I can see how it's a noble effort. I can see how depending on how they handle it, it could go awry. But I understand why they're doing it. I can see the benefits of it because I've experienced some of the benefits of being closer with Ubisoft and as part of a community myself. But I can see how being closer to Ubisoft also brings in restrictions. And I think that the best way that they could solve most of the problems I've seen that you guys have listed, wherein they feel like they're excluding people and stuff like that, I think the best thing that they can do would be to be extremely generous with who they make a member of the Mentors Guild to try and cover everybody, even though they will never, ever cover everybody and make everyone feel represented. I think that just being really generous and trying to give out as many as possible that they can handle and make it still feasible. I don't think a voting thing. I've seen a few people suggest that community should vote to make people them, which I think is just an awful idea and would lead to being like a popularity contest. And how would you even organize a vote at that scale and make sure it wasn't rigged in any shape or manner? But yeah, I think there's pros and cons to the whole thing.
I got a question for both of you, which is, I got two big questions, but the last one I'll leave to the end. But one of them is just the sense of, it's kind of, whenever I talk to you, Loomer, I get these memories of like when I first became involved in the Assassin's Creed community, which was really just watching the Assassin's Den podcast, and people like you and Esco and Squidish and Shenmue and stuff like that back in the day when multiplayer was really big. Like that's how I first started watching the community, and to me it was so accessible that it was so inspiring for me. That's why I started doing YouTube. Watching you guys, I was like, this is something like I think I could do. I think I could bring something. I think it'd be an awesome time. And it's not something like seeing you guys talk to people within Ubisoft. I'm like, that's actually it's possible to do. It's actually something that can be done. And I just wonder and question that when I see things like the Mentors Guild happen and stuff like that, for people that aren't us, for people that are new or are watching us right now thinking, oh, I'd love to make Assassin's Creed YouTube videos or podcasts or something, them almost feel like it's almost too hard to get to that level. You know what I mean? Like there is an exclusivity to it. And my thing is my biggest thing never was about James being in the Mentors Guild, or definitely for sure not myself, Jesus. But like anyone within our community, it was more just like, I just wanted to have someone. I've been around for a long time. I have people I trust. I just would have liked to have seen, if you were in there, Loomer, or Brett was in there, I would have been like, this is someone I know that like I know I can have communications with, because I honestly believe there's not a single person at 10 that, maybe White Room, I don't really know him, but that would really want to talk to me or James. That's more of my, like,
I talked to White Room.
They wouldn't even want. Yeah, you talked to White Room. I don't know him.
He's a sweet lad. I quite like
that was a partly my concern. I don't think any of these people would want to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
Other community members maybe, but like, they'd be like, "That's a Kill Connor Club guy. I don't want to even talk to him." At least like I know I could have an open, whether we're on the same page or agree or disagree. We can have a really fun open discourse with the four of us, as well as someone like Brett. That's all I really want to have at any point within the community. I think I've been around long enough to at least have that.
Yeah, well, I don't think they don't have any restrictions on who they can and can't talk with. I get what you're saying about being concerned about any new people coming in, and them possibly seeing it as kind of like an exclusive club, and that kind of turning it off from them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't want to give the impression that I have zero, like I'm all positive about the Mentors Guild and I don't have any concerns, but most of what I have are just concerns, as in these are ways, it's because it's so early in the Mentors Guild, it's like these are ways things could go wrong, right?
Yeah, of course.
If they start
hypothetical.
Yeah, but it's like if they start really just giving like exclusive content to like people who are in the guild and not anyone else, or like really propping them and promoting those people more than anyone else, or just giving it, or if they do actually start to promote an air of this group of people like is better than you and like you need to respect them and like you can't talk to us directly, you need to go through them, like those are all things like I'd be concerned about. But with respect to what you were saying about a new person coming in, I think you can look at it from both ways, and it's going to largely be dictated by how Ubisoft themselves handles the group. But it's easy to see them handling it one way where it does appear to be an exclusive group and it's all politics and like it turns people off from wanting to do it. But if they handle it right, it's actually supposed to, and the good news is the right way to handle it is the way that everything they've been saying is how they plan to do it, is that you look at these people and they're in the Mentors Guild and their purpose is twofold. So people would come and see someone like White 24 Room like making these cool videos and be like, oh my god, I would love to do something similar like what this guy's doing, and if I do it well enough, I'll actually be welcomed into this like it's possible for me, because you have to remember they're going to be expanding the group as well, right? Bringing in new members. I could one day like get to do all this cool stuff as well. Yeah. But the other thing is, yeah, exactly. But the other aspect of it is you have to remember that there's actually a very large expectation of responsibility on the people who are in the Mentors Guild to share things from their respective communities and to help out people who are starting out in new communities. And this is actually potentially a really cool thing that could happen, because it gives you an easy point of contact on who to get in touch with if you're someone who's starting out and you have questions about what to do. So if like all of a sudden one day they finally decide to make a half Asian assassin in one of these games, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna cosplay the shit out of that. Like I already know exactly, like I know two people that I could right now that I could go to who have direct contact with Ubisoft, that I could say like, hey, I'm really interested in getting started in cosplaying. Like, what can you give me some reference material or like point me to some guides? And these people can kind of be kind of the shepherds of various parts of the community for people who are just starting out or who need help. And I think that's a big part of the Mentors Guild that has gotten, again, lost in this kind of really brief statement that they just released that didn't really go into detail about like what the community is about. But that's actually, I think, a big part of the Mentors Guild, is to help out new people, to share things within your respective communities and across the broader Assassin's Creed community. And I think that would go, at least for me, because I've thought of the same things like you have about concerns about it, but for me that goes a long way in alleviating those concerns that I would have about something like that.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things though is that I do get it, and I think that it's a little bit strange though that Ubisoft's in a sense choosing like this is who you'd look to for that, rather than the community finding the community, like Tyler said, the way that he found like you and other people that were in the multiplayer community and going, oh, I want to be like this guy. Like, Whereas nowadays, it would be like Tyler would come into the community, like little Tyler, and he'd look to Ubisoft, and
First of all, I was never that little, but thanks, James. I appreciate it.
But like, you'd see the Mentors Guild, and you'd be like, oh, well, now I'm like looking towards the Mentors Guild rather than the community as a whole, because I think that when you see the community, you're like, because I mean, look, newcomers to the community are mostly going to be going through, people they see through YouTube. Like I think that's a large portion of the community, and I don't know where this was going. I did have a point, but fucking lost that.
I got a question.
But see, I don't see it that. Sorry, do you want me to go ahead, or do you want to?
Yeah, go ahead, Loomer. This is important.
I'll just real quick. Yeah. I guess I just disagree. I don't really see it that way. It's similar to what I said before about how this is kind of just one more avenue for things. Yeah. Obviously, if anybody, like, there are going to be a ton of people who come into this community through you guys. And they're not all of a sudden, there's nothing that's going to stop them from looking up to you guys and still holding you guys as the inspiration for what
I don't recommend it. I don't recommend that.
Yeah, me neither. 100% don't do that, but sure.
Yeah, but you have to think of it not as replacing any existing like avenues, but as an additional avenue where if somebody is a little lost, someone can easily point them. Somebody could just as easily point them to, if you're just getting into cosplaying, somebody could just as easily point them to someone like Rick Bauer, who is does these amazing Assassin's Creed cosplays, or he could point them to say like, hey, we also have this mentor. There's also this Mentors Guild with 2 people who are actually dedicated to helping out like new people or people that have questions that need to talk to Ubisoft.
Yeah, sure.
And that's kind of like another option that it either hasn't really been there before, or it hasn't really been obvious. And I think if Ubisoft does a good job in the future of communicating that this is the role of one of the major roles of the mentors is to foster their respective communities and help people out, then I think that's just pretty much almost purely a good thing. And it doesn't preclude using any other older, pre-Mentors Guild ways of finding people to look up to, getting help, anything like that. That's my perspective on it anyway.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the thing is, I think the way I looked at it, which was probably wrong, I think that's the way everyone looked at it, was this is solely in place as a way of the community interacting with Ubisoft. And I guess that's not the case at all. That's just one of the ways that it could be used. And there's multiple other ways, and there's multiple ways it could go wrong, but it could also be used in a good way as well. So if you look at it in the way that these people are here for a bunch of possible different roles within the community to help people out, or to interact with Ubisoft, or be this gateway, or whatever they are, it can definitely be seen in a positive way. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just gonna say, and I think it's totally. I don't think there's an exclusive gateway to how they get feedback either. I mean, I would honestly not be surprised at all if there were several development members who actually listen to the Kill Connor podcast regularly.
I really hope not.
But for developers and stuff, this is just a nice official way to get feedback and everything. But it's clearly Ash and I don't want to bring up Darby again because it makes everyone sad. But they're really they'll go out and read the subreddit themselves. They'll go into the forums themselves. They'll watch Twitter. They'll read tweets. People will tweet at them directly. They'll read them, reply to them, and everything. And so it's just. I totally understand, especially with the way this was rolled out, how a lot of these things. But I think in most of the cases with these concerns, you have to kind of step back and look at the bigger picture and realize that realize that Ubisoft's not trying to replace anything that's already there. It's just trying to do something new and cool. That I personally think is the idea is worth pursuing, and I think that the people that they chose to start are all great and wonderful.
Yeah,
sure. Awesome.
All right.
I want to. We've been talking about this a long time. I really want to get into talking about Assassin's Creed Origins with you guys, and your perspectives on it. But before we do, just to kind of wrap up this discussion of the Mentors Guild, I got a question. Which, I mean, we've talked about the fact that there's been different iterations, right, over time of community groups, or like involvement groups, or like the Initiates network was one, and there's been a lot.
The council. Do you guys remember the council website?
Yeah.
That lasted about a total of 7 days.
Oh man! But you remember, like, one of the things about the council was like, hey, if you do that, it was a much more like almost kind of democratic thing, like almost like what you guys were thinking of,
Sure,
like where
it's
like if you get like a ton of upvotes all the time and you
like
prove yourself like in this Reddit-esque thing we've created, like they literally said like you could be brought to like Ubisoft Montreal or whatever. And I think the absolute like complete failure of like, because that thing was just like a shit show from the start and never really like I think them kind of approaching the Mentors Guild the way they did after that was probably the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
You could probably see that it probably influenced a lot of their thinking on that. But sorry, I didn't mean to go off on such a tangent, but I just wanted to make sure we were talking about that too.
Yes, exactly.
Not just initiates.
No, exactly right. Because there's been so many now at this point. Do we really see this lasting? Do we really see this working?
Potentially.
In the long term. Will this last more than 24 hours, i.e. the Assassin's Creed Council? Like,
I think that it is definitely meant to be a foundation. They obviously have expansion in mind and building it, and so we'll see how they handle it at future conferences, how they handle it after release, how they handle it at release as well, and how quickly they expand it, because I think they're going to need to do stuff with it quite quickly, otherwise people forget. And then when it comes back, people are going to be like, what was that again? And people will care even less, and it's going to cause a death spiral if they don't support it continually over the next 6 months to next year.
This is going to be a lot of work. If this is going to work, it's going to take so much work to really
keep it going. Yeah, I think that. Well, I mean, to me, it looks like it could possibly end up being something that continues, but maybe takes more of a back seat than what they've been doing currently, because I mean, like you said, it's going to be a lot of work, and whether it's something they keep pushing continually, who knows? But I think it will stay in some form.
I think the community team are ready for that, for the amount of work though. They did a lot of restructuring the last year or two while we've had the downtime without an AC game, and the community team did a lot of restructuring. I think that they are prepared for this, and they have this goal in mind for the Mentors Guild working. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do focus on it and make it work.
I think one of the big advantages that this program has over the other ones that will help it stay around longer is, to a large part, and they've said this to the mentors themselves, like, it kind of basically just largely requires the mentors doing what they're already doing, because you've taken like a lot of people who already have established themselves and who kind of stood out because they were already doing a lot of things for the community. So in essence, that takes a lot of, I mean, Ubisoft still has a lot to do for the program, but it does take off the heavy lifting in terms of needing to filter out the people who are actually going to be engaged and who are actually going to be enthusiastic about doing stuff like for this program, right? Because by definition, like, they got in because they were already that. Whereas some of these other programs that they've had in the past, like the Council or Initiates, I think kind of flopped a little bit. Well, I mean, Initiates was also a little bit broader in its goals, but like the Council is kind of like, okay, prove yourself to us first, and then like we'll take it from there. And I think that was not quite the right approach, especially on like
a new platform.
Especially on the new platform, and it was easily spammable and gamed, and like just all it was just the Council was ridiculous. God. It was a huge mess, and I was, as soon as I saw it, I was like, ugh. But you know, I see the Mentors Guild, and I'm like, the rollout is kind of but I think the core idea is solid, and like I said, worth pursuing. And everything I've heard from like their goals for it, I think makes me a lot more optimistic that it'll succeed in some fashion or another. And you know, worst case is that, you know, it disbands, but you still have, it's not like if they disband, like AC Universe is going to stop posting videos, or like, you know, the cosplay people are going to stop cosplaying or anything like that. So I think it's not going to be a huge deal if it fails either, but I think it's much less likely.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wish him, I hope it doesn't, like, obviously don't want it to, wish him nothing but the best or anything. with that, and hopefully it works really well. And we're totally wrong, like James and my kind of worries about it, and that it just runs super smooth. Obviously, that's what we want to happen. We never wish like anything to go wrong or anything like that. Hashtag we have Vivendi, no big deal.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
I'm just joking. Hey guys, I'm just joking.
I'm
just no, but I would love now to talk about Origins, because I know we've had Nick on the podcast heaps over the past couple years, and Loomer, we've known you've known about this game for so long. We've been waiting. James and I have been talking about it constantly. Every other episode, we're like, when this game comes out, we can finally talk to Loomer about it and get him back on. Your thoughts on it? Because until then, we're just like, oh, he'll just say to us, oh, you know, that might be where it is. Shut up. You know exactly where it is. Like,
oh, I don't. There's not a whole lot about Origins that I. Oh, okay. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot about Origins that I know that most people don't know, with the big exception of the fact that I have seen the modern day. And
whoa, I'm sorry. What?
Holy shit!
You can't just drop that. You can't just.
And I wasn't supposed to see it.
You
are. And I can't. Literally, would not say anything about it.
No, of course.
That is the one humongous exception. But other than that.
Oh God! You can't
just. I feel
give us a really ambiguous statement about it.
You will get absolutely nothing out of me, because I'm pretty sure the Ubisoft snipers would immediately end this conversation.
I'm pretty sure they're watching right now. They've got the Skype call hacked.
Well, at least we know that.
Although, you know, the other cool thing about Origins is, I'm pretty sure I can tell this story because it's like just old news at this point. But my fun introduction to Origins was when I went to Ubisoft Montreal in 2014 for the
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Unity stuff, and that's when I first found out about it and heard about it, and like I chatted with Darby about it, and this was back when Darby was writing Origins.
Oh, so he was writing Origins.
Yes, I thought so. Oh, that's what we gathered from you, and then from what Nick has told us about meeting Darby. I was like, Darby 100% was on this and now's not on this.
I don't know if we should have mentioned that, Loomer. I don't know if we can mention that or not.
No, I don't think it's.
I mean, I'm on a list of awesome players with Ubisoft than you are, so I'm a little more careful because they don't give a shit what you do. If wow, that sounds really wrong. I mean, they don't care if you spill the beans on small stuff, but they would care if I did. I think.
I don't think that's
a big deal.
I mean, pretty much everyone. Knew he was working on it.
I mean, like, what are they gonna do if everyone finds that out? Like,
it's rest of the Black Flag team, so we can like kind of.
Everyone gathers.
It was meant to be Darby, whether he started writing it or not. I think pretty much everyone was certain it was meant to be Darby writing it. We don't know what happened. You know.
It was the Black Flag team. It was all the principal people involved with that, and
all the best people involved in Assassin's Creed.
I mean, it's still mostly the Black Flag team. It's just kind of minus Darby at some point.
Do we know what happened with Darby? Is that public knowledge, or is that?
Okay, so something like that is something that I would not. So for
Do you know, though?
starters, I don't know details, but I also the details I do know I would not.
Does he work? Can I ask this basic public knowledge question? Does he still work for Ubisoft? Yeah.
He does. Right?
He still works for Ubisoft. He's gotten a promotion of sorts. He's a narrative director now. And he is not working on Assassin's Creed. That's all public knowledge.
Oh, okay, yes. That's all I wanted to know, just so I had the public information in my mind.
So I don't know what he's working on. I am super excited.
Of course.
I know that he's really excited to be working on what he's working on. So whenever it comes out, I'm totally on board.
Yeah, sure. Whatever Darby's working on, I'm gonna play 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His writing's phenomenal. I just hope there's enough of what he did in Origins to kind of like that it's been influenced, like that game at least has a touch of Darby.
Yeah.
So I believe that is the case. That there are some still like broader concepts, I believe, that originated with Darby, but like the dialogue, for example, is. I would not expect to be Darby's. No. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I think that's what you can expect, and maybe one day, if I don't know. Maybe one day I'll be able to convince Darby to talk publicly a little bit about it, but I doubt it. But that'd be cool,
he's such a secretive man. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know he's super secretive about like, yeah, even with like me and stuff, he'll always make sure he's like, you signed an NDA, right? And I'm like, yeah, and he's like, okay.
So when he was talking to you, when you first saw Origins 3 years ago now, what was that like, and what did it look like in comparison to what it's
give us the comparison.
So I didn't really see much of Origins. It was just cool, like, trivia stuff. Like, literally on his screen, he was typing up sequence 1, like, of the story. And stuff like that is just really cool. I saw, elsewhere, I saw, like, a map of, like, the area that they were going to cover. And the idea, you know, I was introduced to the idea that, like, you can travel, like, from here to here. Like, this map is going to be absolutely massive. And, you know, that's something that 3 years later has borne out. You know, it's to kind of realize their vision on that and everything. So sorry, I wasn't trying to make this like a big thing. I really didn't see or hear much at all, just beyond the setting and kind of.
What was your reaction though when they were telling you like it's in Egypt? You're like, oh shit! Like what?
I was like, oh, that's awesome. Well, because everybody's always wanted Egypt, and so it is probably the same reaction as if they had said like, you know, Japan. I would have been like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, those were like the two main things that the fans have always said. Yeah,
definitely a far better reaction than to guys. Next year we're going to Victoria and London. Oh, cool. I guess.
Sure.
Jesus Christ, really? Okay.
Yeah. We got to actually when I was on that trip, we got to see the trailer that the target gameplay footage that would later leak to Kotaku. And that they published screenshots and stuff from
of Syndicate.
What was Victory at the time?
Yeah. I want to see that gameplay. I want to see that target gameplay because I'm really interested to see what that looked like.
It was leaked. We saw it.
We didn't see the gameplay. We just saw the screenshots.
No, just screenshots. Kotaku got the video. As far as I know, they got the video, but
they never showed the video though. I want to see that video. I'd be really interested because I really like the AC3 target gameplay. That was interesting to look at. So it'd be interesting to see.
Syndicate's a little closer, but like the rope launcher was almost like a grapple hook.
Yeah, he was like swinging.
Yeah, he was like swinging off it, and that was kind of weird and stuff. But other than that, I think it was a little closer than AC3's was. But this is all like just like cool stuff I got to see that you too can see if you become a mentor, maybe, probably.
You son of a bitch! That's hilarious.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Well, something that I mean. Yeah. What were you saying? What were you saying?
Oh no, I was just trying to bring it back. It was a little bit of a tangent on Origins.
Oh, right. I was going to ask because you were talking about, you know, how you got to see early on in like 2014. Nick, you got to see some stuff, right? When you got to see 2015. Can you talk anything about that? Because that'd be interesting to hear about, you know, what Origins looked like back then.
I don't recall exactly what my NDA said, but everything I saw has been revealed now. So
yeah, so it's fine to talk about. Yeah. Surely.
So I was in Montreal for the Assassin's Creed Syndicate launch and a part of the community live stream thing that they were doing. So it was me and two other community members that were there as guests and stuff. And we got the full Ubisoft tour early on in the day, skipping over the floors that were working on something top secret. Like we passed by Far Cry Studio, but we couldn't go in to look at them because they were working on Primal at the time. And the one floor was entirely off limits. I don't know what that was. I don't know if it's been revealed yet or anything, but they're just like, we can't go there because nothing on that floor has been announced yet. And we went to the outside, like just before the Assassin's Creed offices, because I'm pretty sure the Assassin's Creed's on the top floor, I think, close to it. And like,
it depends. They move floors depending on, like, the bottom floor is always the next game that's coming out. So now the Origins team would be on like the bottom floor basically.
That's interesting.
And then it kind of moves up from there. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's my understanding.
It's like this kind of like little cafe, just kind of eating area just before you enter into the actual offices where everyone's desks and computers are. So we went up there for the first time early on the day, and then we went back downstairs and we did the live stream and stuff, and then and then after the live stream we went back up because like the community team said the guy said that they had a surprise for us, and this was just as everyone was leaving because it was like 6 o'clock at night by this point. And Ash was like, we were kind of walking towards the offices, and Ash of Ismail was walking out, and so the community guys were like, "These are community members. They were just on the live stream, and we're gonna go show them what's up." And so Ash was like, "Oh, cool, yeah." And so he was talking to us for a bit. And he came with us to show us what was up. And Raphael Lacoste was also heading out at the time, and so was Darby. And so we got to talk to those guys, and they were all very excited about what we were about to see. And they took us in, and the first thing we noticed was the concept art all over the walls of this Arabic-looking character riding on a horse is the main thing, with an eagle flying beside him. Stuff like that on the walls. And I didn't quite pick up on exactly where it could be, but I was like, okay. And then Ash and Darby were getting significantly more excited as we came to this console that was set up basically in the middle of the room with a whiteboard next to it. And Ash turned it on, and all three of us were getting super excited. And he turned it on, and he played through a very, very early build of the open world.
Okay.
Which was very cool. And he showed us Alexandria, and a very, very early Alexandria, and the pyramids, and we saw him fly around a little bit, just like using the debug mode. I'm not saying he can fly in Origins, but he used the debug mode.
It can fly, confirmed.
With the flappy arms.
Yes, it was with the flappy arms and the legs up.
Yeah.
And he just kind of flew around the map just to show us what kind of size it was. And we saw a few like layouts for future cities that they were going to build and stuff.
That's cool.
So it was pretty cool.
How similar did it look to current Origins?
It looked nothing like current Origins.
Did it look?
Basically.
Was it like what did it like? So it was okay. So nothing like it.
It was way more like
Nothing.
the buildings were very vaguely shaped.
Mm-hmm.
They looked kind of like how you expect. I don't know how I might expect ancient Egypt to look. Me being not at all as creative as these guys and have done as much history. It was much less colorful. It looks very nothing at all like it does now. Like you can tell that they were just kind of in the planning stages still. And I didn't hear anything about the story, of course, but Darby was very excited to show us everything that he was working on.
I'm
And
so sad he's not working on it anymore.
Fuck, that crushes
so
me.
sad.
That
I love that
crushes
man.
me.
I basically, while I was watching Ash play around and stuff, I basically fainted. I mean, I met Darby, and the only noise I could make was a high-pitched squeak.
Yeah, you
So
said that. Yeah.
That gives you some kind of indication of what seeing the actual game, my reaction would have been. I was in awe, pretty much.
Yeah, I just Darby not being on it really like, because to me
That upset me.
my biggest I'm still genuinely upset right now, because the biggest thing with me in Assassin's Creed that I had left was story, and there's only one writer that's still there that I'm like I know is going to deliver, whereas right now it's just up in the air with some guy that hates YouTube apparently and hates YouTubers.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I saw that.
When
That
I
was hilarious.
when I retweeted that, I quoted it, and I was like making a joke, and all of a sudden everyone started attacking him, and I was like, oh god, no, it was a joke. I'm sorry.
He was a good sport about it, though.
Oh god, yeah, he was alright, but Jesus Christ, I didn't mean for that to happen. Or,
So
George retweeted him, and like Ethan did, and I'm like, guys, like, I mean, he was partially joking. Like, I mean, I guess I understand what he was saying, but like he was partially just having a joke, and so I had a joke as well. But then everyone started attacking him, and I was like, oh god.
He got assaulted.
Yeah,
He
it was
got
bad. I was
assaulted.
like, oh fucking
Oh, that's
hell.
too bad. I missed
Last
that
time
part.
I did that.
Well, I mean, I think, definitely give him a chance.
Yeah,
Darby
that's
was
what
a
I
new
said
writer
the
to
whole
the
time.
series at one point. And the
Yeah.
other thing to note is that the structure, and Ash talked about this in the interview I did with him at E3, but it's something I've just also heard in general, is that the writing team structure for Origins is fairly different from previous games.
Yeah.
And so I don't really expect, I think his name's Alain?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think he occupies the traditional lead writer role, as people like Corey and Jeffrey and Darby have in the past. Like, it's not exactly playing out the same way. So it's really, really difficult to say anything about how the writing is actually going to end up. But I don't know. I mean, everybody I've talked to who knows him speaks pretty highly of him and like the work that the writing team's doing. So even though obviously I'm just as sad as you guys and everyone else to see Darby leave the franchise, I'm coming into it with an open mind.
Yeah,
we'll see how it ends up.
People the same people that made Derby, the lead writer on these games, picked this guy. So clearly they saw something.
Well, I mean, there was also there's someone that worked for Ubisoft. I think he worked for Ubisoft that kind of wrote the script for the movie, and that gave me cancer. So like,
no, the script for
the movie wasn't
like Ubisoft hired them.
Is that how that went? Did Ubisoft hire the dude who wrote the script for the movie?
I feel sick. I feel sick when I bring up the movie.
I don't know too much about how.
We're getting into the nitty-gritty of how. Yeah, because it was with Fox and stuff, so it's a lot more.
Everything gets incredibly
It was with Fox, but
complicated.
Ubisoft apparently had a lot of creative control, and so I'm sure they had some influence over who was writing. But it went through like 3 writers, I think. And
I would say the person who wrote it, judging from the movie that I watched, wasn't heavily involved with Assassin's Creed because he clearly did not understand what he was doing. He was like, "Oh, this is the Matrix 4." Okay.
I actually still haven't seen the film, and I consider that one of my greatest accomplishments in life.
Yeah, don't say it. Don't say it.
I congratulate you.
Congratulations on celebrating ignorance. What is that? What are you making an opinion? See it and make an opinion.
I think I was.
I don't mean to be that harsh. It's just sometimes when people brag about not even seeing something.
I was also joking. I'm not going about my life trying to avoid the film at all costs. I just haven't.
You just haven't seen it. I mean, you can see it at some point. I mean, I'd kind of recommend doing it. Don't buy it though. Pirate it. No, I mean, don't pirate it. That's illegal. But definitely pirate it.
It's on Netflix. It's on US Netflix now, so we can.
Is it?
Like this month. It's this month.
Okay, do that then.
I actually really like the movie. We don't need to get into that.
To be fair, I said, because I remember you were talking about how much you liked the movie. I was like, oh, sweet. All of a sudden, I kind of had hope. Then I saw it, and 40 minutes
threw up afterwards.
I wanted to fucking leave. I was so insulted. But at the same time, I also said to James, because James says, but Loomer loved it. I'm like, he went to the premiere. I'm like, you couldn't not love that movie. The experience you would have had. It's the way Loomer went and saw that movie. How could you not like it? To be fair.
But even with the high of actually being at the premiere and everything wearing off, from that, I still really, I think the things that are deal breakers for a lot of other people are not deal breakers for me. That's the thing.
But
we could get into the nitty gritty if
I'm the worst end of the spectrum, to be fair. Even James liked the movie at first. For me,
I enjoyed it when I watched it.
I wanted to leave 40 minutes in. There's not a single thing I liked about the movie. I thought it was a 1 out of 10 movie. I would give it a 0 if I could.
The thing is, right, with the rating for the movie, I would agree with you when looking at it secondly. When I look at it and I look at each individual detail and I analyze it, I'm like, yeah, this movie is a piece of shit. But when I watch it as a movie, I'm like, see, that's the thing I think that's different between me and you, is if the movie wasn't canon, I think it's fine. But being canon, it really bothers me, because the main points that I think are really bad with the movie is the lore is just horrendous. I think it's just fucking stupid. It makes no sense. And the thing that fucking annoys me is the way they pronounce the word Rickon wrong. And I'm like, they've pronounced that in the games. That's not how you pronounce his name. How do you get that wrong? Just tell them you're pronouncing the name wrong. Let's do that again.
That kind of thing makes me, because you hear about how Ubisoft apparently had a lot of creative control over that, but then when they can't even get that corrected, it makes me question how that all worked out. And I feel like it was maybe a little more not the best working relationship, possibly. I have absolutely no idea, but
it's just that's so strange to me, because Isaiah Emma was on the set most of the days that they were shooting. I feel like Isaiah Emma was there, so I feel like he would have known. I don't know.
Yeah, from what I understand,
he talked about it, didn't he, on Reddit in that AMA? He talked about the way that it is. He said that it was it's something that got lost in translation or something, and I'm like, well, yeah, but you just tell them they're wrong. What do you mean? Don't make excuses. Just say sorry. We don't need excuses.
Or maybe changing it would have been too much work or effort or something. There's quite a few possibilities.
It's sure, but there's so many lore issues. The bleeding effect doesn't work how it works in the movie. Aguilar. Let's be honest, right? So there's a point, right, where you're in this Abstergo building, and Aguilar appears in front of Callum, and it's okay, so it's how Ezio appeared in front of Desmond, but Desmond was in the Monteriggioni, villa, underneath in the catacombs. That's where Ezio was. So that's why you could see him, because Ezio was there at one point. Whereas I don't think that Aguilar was ever 40 feet in the air above Madrid, which is where Callum was in this Abstergo facility, because it's obviously a modern building that was relatively high in the air. I don't think Aguilar was ever just floating in the air like that.
There is Altair in Assassin's Creed 2. Altair shows up, you know what I mean? And Desmond goes into an Altair memory outside of the Animus. You know, halfway through Assassin's Creed 2, Desmond goes into that Altair memory.
That's true, but he falls asleep and relives the memory rather than seeing it. That's not like seeing an illusion with the bleeding effect, is it?
No, I because in the movie, every ancestor he's ever had showed up and started talking to him like they were there, and I'm like, that's not how it works. That's not how the Force works.
Yeah, and Aguilar would like shadow box with him too, and that's pretty not how that works either. That's how memories.
Callum had like been in the Animus for 5 minutes, then he was singing like a madman. It's like, that didn't happen, though, did it? Like it took.
Yeah, like I definitely have a lot of issues with the movie, but they aren't. I think it's like I said, like those things weren't as deal, and I totally recognize that they were like that. That's not how the bleeding effect works. You know, I can totally go on about like stuff like that, but I guess they weren't for whatever reason. I guess it's just because maybe I just had low expectations for video game adaptations, but I was like, you know, yeah, they changed some of these things and they got other parts wrong, but like by and large, like it was a team of really talented people who like really were engaged with wanting to make like a good series that I think, especially in the historical sequences, succeeded in several ways. And my main point when I said I liked it was also to try to. I thought they deserved the chance to make a sequel and improve on what they had built on.
They didn't deserve that at all.
Yeah. And so I was hoping people would see it, but I guess I don't know. I think people are overly harsh on it too. Like I think right now its Rotten Tomatoes rating is like below almost every Transformers movie, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I think it's on par with those.
And I know Tyler's like, Tyler's like, it's go negative, but like I'm like, give me a fucking break. Like just like the sheer amount of like that kind of shit like blows my mind. But obviously this is all just subjective anyway, so it's
but this is the thing as well. Like I get when people hear someone be as negative about it as I am, then it's like there's no way. And like most of them, I get what you're saying because there's things that I've liked or I thought that aren't that bad. I'm like, no one hates it that much. They're just exaggerating. I promise you. I saw it before, like any of the my friends or James or any of our community saw it. I was straight onto it. And I had no opinions in my head. I hated it the same amount now as I did the second I saw it. I mean, I am a film student, a filmmaker. I hated it as a movie. Like as a filmmaker, I was watching it like breaking it down like a bloody movie hipster, like going like, no, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like that. And then as a fan of Assassin's Creed, I was also like, so I felt like from both ends. I was insulted. I didn't like any of the acting other than Jeremy Irons. It was when he finally started getting some scenes in there. I'm like, okay, come on, here we go. There was just, I mean, I've talked about this endlessly, and I just, the movie. There's nothing.
Talking about the movie.
Yeah, there's honestly nothing.
Why are we still talking about this?
Okay,
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, I mean, I did want to bring up though the whole like. I think a thing that annoys me the most about the movie, and I mean, like, I think we talk about this now, who fucking cares, is the fact they killed Alan Rickman in the movie.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
that bothers me fucking hugely. If they hadn't done that, I can just let the movie exist in canon. It can just stay there, it can exist. But they killed the main fucking antagonist of the modern day. Like, Alan Rickman's been there. All over the place. Like, he's this guy that you know of, like, he's the CEO of fucking Abstergo Industries. They just fucking killed him. In this shit movie. What are they doing? Oh, it bothered me so much. And this guy, Callum Lynch, who's probably never going to show up again. That he did it. What the fuck was he doing? Oh, God.
Well, to be fair, when they were making the movie, I'm sure they were planning on having him show up a lot. But after the reception and the release, probably not.
What did they think was going to happen? God damn it.
Back to Origins though. I wanted to bring up a topic from your new series, Loomer, Illumination, which is a phenomenal name, by the way. Yeah. I love that name.
Thanks, I'm all about the puns these days.
Yeah, you've all got those like Assassin's Creed as well. That's another one.
Yeah, I love it. Someone else came up with that one for me, and I was like, I love that so much.
It's a great name.
I'm stealing.
So you brought up a topic that I really like. Maybe it's because I'm just kind of out of the loop for this game than I have been for the past, 4 or 5 years previously. With Origins, social stealth, which was the topic of your first episode, to me, I was like, I don't know why I haven't even thought about it. And now I'm like, what the fuck's going on with social stealth now? I'm really worried about it. But that's because it's such a key element to Assassin's Creed that by going towards a more RPG style of, like a Witcher or Horizon Zero Dawn, where does Origins fit in with new current video games, and where does it fit in with previous Assassin's Creeds without something as key as social stealth? I guess I've watched your video a couple of times, Loomer. I would like to see Nick and James's opinions on the social stealth element kind of being non-existent, really, in Assassin's Creed Origins, as far as from what we've seen of gameplay and footage and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not existent, isn't it? I think, Loomer, you talked about that in the video, didn't you? Saying that it's pretty much not a game of blending.
They haven't really outright said that it's not in the game, but from like rumblings I hear and the way I think that they've kind of danced around it before or whatever and everything, like I'm pretty sure it's not in the game.
That's super disappointing. Which, I mean, it's weird, isn't it?
What does that mean for the future of the franchise, though? Especially for what this game stands for as the kind of origin story of the Creed.
Yeah, well, I think they're just... Oh, yeah, that I don't know about the origin story for the Creed, but, I mean, they could have just made a decision that they're going to lean more into this market that's, I guess done well with Witcher and Horizon, and kind of that's the view they take on evolving the series. But it's totally open for, another team in the future to come along and decide that this is going to be a priority for our setting in our game, and not ruling out that it might somehow work its way into Origins. Maybe some people have brought up maybe it happens at the very end or something. I'm not betting money on it, but nobody, none of us know, could totally do that.
That's the thing, though. Like, I mean, I didn't even think about it. I think it's something that I took for granted and just expected, there'll be blending, like Unity Syndicate style blending. When you enter a crowd, it's like you have some form of stealth, like it just kind of take a backseat, but it'd still be there. But it's like, I mean, like Ashraf said, I think sort of taken the route with this game that nothing is sacred necessarily, because Assassin's Creed, like we've talked about on this podcast before, is Assassin's Creed hasn't had like an identity really since Revelations. Like 1 through Revelations established Assassin's Creed, then they just sort of kept changing it with 3 and Black Flag and Unity and Syndicate. And now I think it's sort of the time they've gone, right, so what is Assassin's Creed? Let's define what it is now in 2017. And so if they've decided blending social stealth isn't necessarily of importance and can't be used in the gameplay, I mean, it's something that I feel is a sort of a loss to the franchise. Is sort of, it's something that I loved about Assassin's Creed 1, but if it's something that couldn't make its way into Origins for the betterment of the game, then I'm not mad that they didn't shoehorn it in for the sake of it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That makes sense.
So my argument for this was, I won't get into too much because I have this whole video that you guys can watch if you haven't seen it.
We'll check the description.
Yeah, but so I was thinking, I think similar to you guys, and probably, obviously the developers, because when I played I got to play AC Origins when I went to Singapore for Skull and Bones, and like it was really weird to me, like when I was playing combat and like you have like a shield you're using and damage numbers are like flying off the hits and everything, and every once in a while I'll go through, like I'll just kind of think to myself, like what, sometimes they'll add stuff like den defense, and it's like, or what is it that makes some of these changes like okay and others not? Like, what is the core of this franchise? Like, can you define it, and what should and shouldn't be there? And I was thinking, and I'd kind of gotten the impression that social stealth was de-emphasized or gone completely. And my argument was that social stealth, I think, is so core to the philosophy behind the actual Assassin's Creed, which drives like all of the Assassin's actions like throughout history, that really that should be kind of like the #1 priority, to the point where I honestly, personally think that if social stealth, like I think that if you make an origin story, you have to have a heavy emphasis on social stealth, because social stealth drives the assassin's philosophy and attitude towards the crowd, and that in turn informs the writing of the first and second tenets of the creed. And I go into the detail about this in the video, but for me, like, I totally get what you're saying about like how if it doesn't work in Egypt because of like, you know, it's a big open world, there's not a lot of civilians and stuff like that. To me, like if I were in charge like at Ubisoft and like helping making these decisions, I would say like if you can't make social stealth work in Egypt for this origin story, then maybe we need to change this. We need to have a different setting for this origin story.
Yeah, it was the same argument we had for things like the rope launcher. People saying, well, you need the rope launcher of Victoria London. And we say, well, then don't pick Victoria London because we don't need a rope launcher.
Yeah.
So I completely get your argument.
Or provide like a better justification for it. Or like, but like to me narratively, like I just can't like I just that is like one of the top priority. Like you should really build an origin story about the creed around
that
the gameplay elements
like, you know,
of
the
social
whole
stealth, because they're so intertwined. That was my whole thing.
The whole blade in the crowd, hide in plain sight, that sort of thing. You know,
yeah,
it's like a huge thing in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, and then even stay your blade from the flesh of an innocent. Like when you look into the encyclopedia and stuff, they elaborate how that relates to the crowd. And again, like I go into all this in the video, so I won't keep going on and on about it. But like that's the level of importance it has for me. Like especially in an origin story. If it weren't an origin story, like I could definitely live with it, because I'm sure not every single assassin followed all of the tenets all the time. Like you could make a case for plausibly leaving it out completely from any other game. But for an origin story, like I'm really curious to see how they handle it.
Does this give, for you guys, because this is something I've advocated for years, which is, and they talked about it with the Kotaku leak of Origins, back then it was Empire, at least the code name for it, and I believed this Kotaku report 100% because he leaked Black Flag, Unity, and Syndicate completely accurately. He talked about the potential for multiple games with this lead character. So I'm not sure if it's happening, but I'm sure I believe it's at least been discussed. If this is the origin story, but if this isn't his last game, is there the potential to bring it forward because he's still developing it with, like, let's say if there was a sequel or something, would that be okay with you guys?
So, I guess I'll go first real quick. Like, yeah, I'd be okay with that. I just don't think that's what they're doing. Like Ash has specifically said that this is about the formation of the Brotherhood as we know it and the associated rituals. It kind of doesn't, the way he's saying it doesn't really leave in my mind much interpretation that it's going to be a gradual thing across 3 games. Sure. And the thing is, as soon as my thing is, as soon as you form the organization called the Brotherhood, which we know is happening in this game, like Ash has said that, right? As soon as you form the organization, you really need, it's what I said in my video, like, your organization has no purpose if you don't have any philosophy or principles to guide, like, what does your organization stand for? And that's why in my mind, it has to involve the origins of not just the Brotherhood, but the Creed at the same time. And the Creed is, as I argue, intertwined with social stealth, and it makes me wonder how all that's going to work out. So, but other people have brought up this idea of like, oh, maybe someone was saying, what if it's just like, they kind of develops like one tenet per game or whatever. Yeah. And I guess it's possible. I just personally don't see it happening. I think as soon as you establish the organization itself, you have your entire philosophy, like pretty much the entire philosophy in place.
There's a basis for it, yeah.
That still makes sense, though, like, if you were to have him develop the Creed towards the end of the game, because that's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be, I mean, not necessarily, like, the only thing I can compare it with is, like, Black Flag, the way that Edward was a pirate for most of the game, then towards the end he became an assassin. I feel like Bayek, I feel like it's going to be different, of course, with him being himself, and he has his own sort of morals, and then towards the end of the game, he'll form this brotherhood, because he's like, well, these morals have to be kept throughout time, so that, you know, we don't get any more people that try to control freedom, and, you know, stuff like that. So, I mean, they could, towards the end of the game, him create these tenets, and then if they wanted to lead into a sequel, have the sequel develop more of, you know, this social stealth element, you know, that could introduce itself in the end of Origins. But, I mean, it's strange the way they've talked about it, because people have asked, like, Amar on Twitter, you know, are we getting a trilogy? And he's kind of really deflecting that, saying, you know, this is like, oh, you already want a second game with Bayek and stuff like that, and it's like,
well, yeah.
okay.
You can't I don't know who honestly expects Amar to like legitimately answer that question.
I mean, he's not, of course, he's not
oh
going
yes, let me break some news right now, just for you.
For sure, but I see
underscore Altair 36. Like,
see, like I don't remember back in like 2009 when we'd had Assassin's Creed 2. I don't remember anyone ever like. I mean, I didn't expect it. I just expected we'd get Assassin's Creed 3 and we'd get, you know,
of course,
some other protagonists. But no, we got Brotherhood, and then we got Revelations, and you know, like
the greatest gifts I've ever been given.
Oh God, yeah. Makes me so. Sometimes I consider killing myself, but then I remember the Ezio trilogy and I don't. So.
Yeah,
so thank you, Ubisoft.
So I've heard this. I've gotten this probably like one of the biggest pieces of feedback I got on that video. Where it's like a lot of people are like, "Well, he doesn't have social stealth because he hasn't formed the Brotherhood yet," and like to varying degrees of people trying to be helpful, and other people saying like, "You're an idiot because you didn't think about this." And I'm like, "Well, my whole point is, like, you need to have the formation of the creed in here, and you can't put the chicken before the egg in this case, because you need to have some philosophy about social stealth and the crowds before you create the tenets. You don't create the tenets and then be like, okay, and now I'm going to
now we're gonna do them.
Right?
Yeah, the tenets have to be formed around your own morals, sort of thing. So
I've never done this in my entire life, but I'm going to dictate that we now hide in plain sight. No, it's like what makes way more sense is if like he has experience like with the crowd and he's like, oh, this is how our Brotherhood is going to think about people and the crowds and the strength in numbers, and we're gonna make our organization follow this by writing this second tenet, basically.
So Nick, you've been quiet on this. What do you think about? I mean, pretty much the non-existence of social stealth, but also how maybe it could relate or work to the future of the franchise overall. If there's a sequel for Bayek, or at least they're kind of staying in this time period era.
In terms of social stealth, it depends how they handle it, really. If it feels like something's missing, then it would be a big part of it. But they've implemented so many other forms of stealth in the last few games, like when they added crouching and things like that, and the use of hoods and stuff. So I think
top hats,
like
fucking top hat.
How else am I gonna know if I'm in stealth mode or not if I don't have a top hat? That's something about Origins. The fuck? He doesn't have a top hat. How am I gonna know?
It's difficult to say, really, at this point in time, whether it's going to feel wrong. I think that the Ubisoft guys know what they're doing in this regard. Mostly know what they're doing in this regard. So, I don't think they would take it out if it didn't feel like it should be taken out, because it's been in all the other games. I feel like they must feel strongly about this.
Because I guess they're redefining what Assassin's Creed is at this point. Like, they're going down the RPG route, and I'm not mad at that because I fucking love The Witcher and I love Horizon. So at this point, I think I'm more concerned about this game being a good game than I am about it being, you know, true to Assassin's Creed. Because I think at this point, I've let go of what Assassin's Creed used to be, and I'm just like, please just give me a good game. I just want to play something fun. So, you know,
I'm most concerned about the story, because I think the gameplay is going to be fun regardless. Like, at the end of the day, the game
looks amazing, but
they've got so many story challenges. To tell an origin story, first of all, this is a 10-year-old franchise now that has so many established characters, so much established lore, and a universe that goes beyond just video games to comic books to novels to so many different levels. I'm not saying the movie. So the thing about having an origin story of forming the Brotherhood as we know it, we've never even heard of Bayek. So you've got to somehow explain form a Brotherhood that makes sense to the Creed and what it soon becomes 1,000 years later with Altair, but also somehow write out a character out of existence, and there's a reason we don't know who the fuck he is. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of hurdles narratively that they have to deal with by telling an origin story. I respect the fact they're attempting it, but I'm very concerned by it might be too much of a challenge, and some things are almost better left unexplained and mysterious. It's like, I don't really want to know how the Jedi were formed in Star Wars, because that could kind of like, you know, by defining it, you kind of can contradict things that happen later. I respect they're trying, but like I said, there's just so many challenges with that.
Yeah, the strange thing is they didn't even need to do this. They didn't even need to explain the origins, because we know there was Darius and stuff before. They didn't even need to explain it. They could have just had Bayek as an assassin. I don't really know why they decided to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's definitely the potential for it to be done well and in a cool way, and seeing like the origination of like a lot of things, like I don't know, like rituals and assassination techniques. And so if they thought they could do it right, and so they made an attempt, and we'll see how it turns out. I don't know. I'm optimistic. I think there are definitely some cases where you can remove the mystique from something and it sucks as a result.
Like with the Isu. I feel like that was done really weird.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like just even knowing the name Isu kind of makes it like... Whoa.
It's weird how they did it as well. Just in passing in Syndicate, she just Juno just calls him Isu, and you're like, oh, wait, what? Okay.
Yeah. It was you two that explained Isu to me, like back in the after Syndicate released. I think it was you, Luma. You said Isu. I'm like, what the fuck's an Isu?
So weird.
Yeah, and there's also characters like Darth Vader and stuff where like if you do it poorly, like it really can actually kind of be detrimental. And I don't know if you guys watch Rick and Morty, but like the premiere of season 3, like kind of deals with that too, where it's like they almost tease you with revealing Rick's origins, but then they're like, you don't actually really want to know, because
you just accept that this dude's a mad, crazy, smart guy.
Yeah, and it's like they're like we're gonna like tease you with like fucking this up and like like ruining this. I don't want to spoil the episode, but then like the truth is you don't actually really want to know like his origins or stuff. But I don't think that necessarily applies to the Brotherhood. I think you can tell a really cool story about how things got formed, and
there's so much time between Origins and Altair's time. There's 1,200 years. There's so many games in that time. You know what I mean? How many games put in the span of like 100 years between Black Flag's time period and Syndicate? You got like 5 games in there.
That's true. So I mean, there's loads of time between Origins and Assassin's Creed 1, like. So, I mean, telling the story of the origins of the Brotherhood doesn't necessarily take away all of the mystique of the Brotherhood, because there's plenty of time for things to change and stuff to happen. So, yeah, I suppose.
And it depends how they do it too. Like, if the ring finger removal turns out to be something like really profound and meaningful, then it actually has the effect of making it just
mean
even
more.
Making the other games mean even more. And so I think that's the risk you take with something like an origin story, right? Is like, I think there is a way, like, I think it's totally possible to make a good Assassin's Creed Origins story.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not they pull it off, right? And I'm not to say I don't have concerns in that regard either, like you guys. Yeah. We'll have to see.
We have to see. And that's why I'm kind of worried about the Derby thing. It's not just because I love Derby or anything. It's just because I'm just sick and I'm just sick
really?
and tired.
It kind of sounds like it's because you love Derby.
Hey, look, it's definitely partly because I love Derby. But it's more just the fact that I've said this so many times, I'm sick and tired of every game having a different writer. I'm like, who is narratively in control of this franchise? There needs to be one guy, or at least, a very small group of people that are the boss here narratively. They're like, this is the story we're telling. And if someone's like, this is the next setting we're going to go, and they're like, okay, we're in control of that story because we need to make sure it fits in with the modern day story arc we're going to go with if they have one, or anything like that. They can't just have every game decide that, well, when Derby wrote in the box it was this, and then some other writer's like, no, I think it's this. Oh, there's multiple boxes. No, there's not multiple boxes. Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, was that? Like, who was that did that? It was Richard Faris, right?
What the fuck are we talking about?
Well, I mean, Richard's role is actually pretty close to what...
but then he goes and confuses everything, though. Like, with the boxes, he's like, oh, I'm just going to change it. It's weird. Like, I'm pretty sure Derby didn't have that in mind when he wrote the box, and...
Not saying Richard's a perfect
weird.
person.
And then you've got like Jeffrey, who like he wrote Dead Kings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he like there was the thing with the apple, and originally he was like, it's not an apple. Yeah, it is an apple. No, it's not an apple. Yeah, it is an apple. And it's like, you wrote
Jeffrey.
What are you doing?
I love Jeffrey. He has an attitude sometimes where he's like, I'm just gonna blow shit up narratively, and I don't really care that I do that.
Okay, cool. For sure. Well, I don't care if
right.
you get fired. Then Jeffrey, I'm sorry. I apologize, but like I
don't know him
just,
personally, but in terms of a writer,
I hope I hope you find a new job very quickly. But you can't just go and do that, right?
I care too much about this,
right?
please,
Because
Jeffrey.
I mean, that's basically what he was. He's like, it's not fun if you can't like blow things up like every once in a while. Like it's basically what he said when I was asking him on that interview about
that's where I heard
Syndicate, for Desmond's son, because he's the one who wrote like the thing in Desmond's son with Clay and Brotherhood. You know, the son, your son.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah, he wrote that and everything, and then like Darby wrote. In the AC4 modern day, like the audio file, because everyone kept asking about it, and so he's like, fine, here, have this. And Desmond's like, oh, Clay showed me like a bunch of things and a bunch of different realities, and then there was one reality where I had a son. And Darby's like, there's your explanation, like, you don't have to think about it. And then like Jeffrey comes back and he's like, and bam, like,
and there is one. And the reality that you have a son is this reality. It is.
Oh god.
I just think speaking of
now.
I wanted to bring something up with you guys because James and I have talked about this. It's a theory that we kind of realized because I don't know what it is. I always knew when Juno got introduced as like the bad guy, the villain, right? That she kind of had a group following. There was like this cult following at Juno. I didn't know the name of it, and for whatever reason, I just I know it's before. I know this now.
You didn't know.
But somehow. Yeah, that's what I say. I know this now. You explained it to me. I just somehow missed the fact that they're called Instruments of the First Will. I don't know how I missed it, but I just missed it. I knew they existed as a cult. I just didn't know there was a name and organization to it. But when James brought that up to me, I go, oh, that sounds familiar, especially with the logo of it. And I went back to Lost Archives, where Subject 16 in memory...
Oh, yeah.
6, he goes through...
I love this.
When he's shown, when Subject 16 shown the truth about Lucy in that kind of theater room, and it's like the footage of her talking to Warren Vidic. Yep. After that, a doorway opens up and the brick cut, and it's like an old building. And on the top of that doorway that 16 walks through is this symbol of the Instruments of the First Will. And after he walks through that, Juno says, I used to have this quote memorized, but it was pretty much just like, you know what you need to do.
Help Desmond Miles.
Help Desmond. Oh yeah, she says, you know what you need to do? Help Desmond Miles, and he goes, I will. And all of a sudden, he's so compliant with it. And I believe that he was helping Juno the whole time and knew exactly what she was doing. And I believe 16's an Instrument of the First Will member.
That's an interesting theory.
I like
well, I think
it.
the symbol is just the symbol for Juno, I think. And then the Instruments of the First Will adopted that as like their symbol, I believe. I'm a little shaky on my Instruments of the First Will lore, but I'm pretty sure that's
because I remember a lot of it, like a lot of the instruments I remember from the sticky notes in 4. That's a lot of where I remember stuff from, with the gray and stuff, and like she talks about it in Syndicate, and it's super confusing. And then because I remember in Unity there's like the little database entry where she says the 16 and Desmond is in the gray with her, and there's that there, and it's like everything's very fucking confusing. I don't know whether they've defined anything. Like, I mean, are they going anywhere with this? Like, what are they doing? I don't know, but it's there.
Well, this is at least part of this is kind of also explored in I think in like the transmedia stuff with the comics and the books.
Comics,
and this is kind of the...
Like Uprising, is that one of them? I don't know, I don't follow the comics very
Uprising
closely.
is where a lot of stuff's happening with Juno and everything.
Like, where's Desmond's son? He's shown up in the comics, right?
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
But I just wanted to check the quote here. This is why I was so skeptical, because this quote fucked me up for a while because I never understood, and it wasn't until the Instruments of the First Will got brought up to me that I connected it, which was she goes, because once he goes through the door with that symbol on it, she says, your eyes are now open, help Desmond Miles. He says, I will. And then she says, they must all suffer as we suffered.
That's true. That's creepy.
You know what I mean? It's a creepy line in the way she brings him in. That's why I'm like, I actually think the whole time
they
he
must
was...
all suffer as we suffered. Sounds like no, you know what it sounds like? Clay is a sage. That's what it sounds like.
Hey, you never know, man. You just don't know.
Headcanon.
think that's the case.
Headcanon bit. You can't stop it now. It's a thing.
Well, so what do you mean? Like, you think that she's saying they should all be brought into the gray? Because Juno, you have to remember, Juno was not in the gray at that point in Revelations or whatever
She wasn't that
I don't think that's what it is. I think he's in the gray at that point, but I think that's alluding to him being a member of the First World, wanting what Juno wants. It's we now. They must all suffer because what's her end goal? It's not just about the grey. She wanted to, take over the fucking world.
I see.
That's true, but she did also say the same sort of things to Desmond as well throughout, like, 2 and Brotherhood and
not
Revelations.
Like that, though. Not like that.
True. No, she didn't do anything sinister like that, but she did say. I mean, Desmond kind of caught on. He was like, whatever's on the other side of the Grand Temple benefits Juno. So, told everyone to be careful. But, yeah, Clay was fucking insane, though, by that point. So, it makes sense that he would just comply with whatever the fuck Juno's saying. I mean, Juno could have been talking about Abstergo, because I think Clay
resisting. He was resisting until she showed him something. Until he went through that door.
Thing with Lucy?
With Lucy?
Yeah, with the stuff with Lucy.
So, it's... And he helped Desmond get exactly to where Juno wanted Desmond to be. You know what I mean? His role was to get Desmond to help Juno at the end of the day. That's what his intention was. I'm not 100% sure, right? But like that's what happened from what 16
true.
did.
I mean, we can talk about this for as long as we want, but the reality is a lot of various writers had their hand in the story. And so I don't think there's any clear pattern at all until we get to like the end, and it's like this person allowed the story to go the way it wanted. I mean, with Darby writing a lot of Revelations, it could make sense, but Darby's not the one that wrote Lost Archives. That was Jeffrey, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was, and he also wrote in Desmond's Son. He also did The Truth in Brotherhood. So there's those things.
Interesting. I 100% agree with you guys on that. I wish there was somebody with a really good vision that has stronger narrative control over all these things. But no, I
think they might like him less than they like us. I don't know if that's possible.
If only he was still there.
So Desmond's son, he's an instrument of the First World, though. He's in the comics. He's like their messiah.
Yes, he's like Juno's best mate.
Oh, I didn't know that. I haven't actually read the comics yet for that.
Oh, me neither.
Uprising. I just know he's there, but
he is there. I'm pretty sure he's Juno's mate. I'm pretty sure.
Well, we know he's a sage, right? Obviously, so that's one thing we know about him.
The Syndicate said so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could totally influence his affiliation towards Juno.
That makes sense. I mean, that's what we love, though. That's why I think it'd be amazing to have him in a game, because like he's got that confliction between being Desmond's son and also being Aita as well. So he's torn between the two.
He's two
I think
people.
that's a super interesting story to tell.
Interesting, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I know all about the modern day, so I can't say anything, but interesting. Yeah.
No. Never. That is not what I was alluding to.
Oh god.
Interesting. You're 100% on the money. Or interesting. You guys are stupid.
No, it's purely 100% just interesting. As in, I haven't read the comics for Uprising yet, and so this is all like.
So I have no idea if I'm even correct. Like I don't even know what's going on. We need Colum on for this. He knows everything.
Oh god. I'm curious, Nick, because you're similar to me in the sense of you're in, but you're out. I mean, I'm in because I'm on this podcast every week or whatever, every other week, but you've taken that back step within the community. Where do you sit and feel about Origins and the future narratively of Assassin's Creed?
Well, I have complete faith in the Black Flag team, really. So I'm very confident in Origins simply for that fact. And not much more to it than that. Like, nothing I saw was like, because I saw really, really early stuff. So nothing I saw was like, wow, this is going to be really awesome. But the stuff we've seen since like E3 looks pretty cool. Black Flag team made an absolute masterpiece in my mind.
Yeah.
I agree.
Few years back. So I could see them trying to make another masterpiece, or trying to do their best towards that goal.
God, I hope they're at least trying, for God's sakes. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hope they're trying to.
But like narratively, the overarching story between the whole franchise. I haven't been paying attention to the comics at all. I haven't seen the film, so like I feel really. I did read what was it, Heresy? I did read Heresy, so
I
I'm
didn't
a little.
finish that shit.
Heresy was great.
I'm gonna finish it. I am going to finish it.
I liked it a lot.
I'm gonna finish it. I promise.
But with Origins is kind of the first game since we've had the massively accelerated the expansion of the expanded universe. With all of the new comics are a huge part of it, new books and everything.
And especially the modern day. Because the movie and the comics and stuff are pretty heavy on the modern day, surprisingly.
Movie.
Yep. So it will be interesting to see how they handle the first game since the expanded universe actually matters. And I think that will probably be the make or break thing for it, and how the games whether the games will still be the torchbearer for the story and lead the way with the expanded universe kind of following it, or just a part of this whole universe. And see how the games handle that. It should be interesting.
But I mean, I think
really don't really have much of an idea for it.
I think with things like Unity and Syndicate, those games have kind of, in terms of the modern day and overarching story, expanded universe, etc., I think have been a part of it, but have never been a main part of it. And I think that with Origins, the main thing I've wanted is to have, Origins story start the games being, the main sort of place in the universe for the storyline, and have comics and novels follow that, because like there's things with Star Wars, like I love the extended media in Star Wars because I love Star Wars, but with Assassin's Creed the games have been so lackluster with the overarching story that I haven't cared about the extended media, because the story doesn't matter to me. So if they can make the games this main point where I get all of my, kind of the story, then have these comics and novels, etc., as kind of additions and, expansions of this universe that I love, then that's kind of what I want, rather than it being the other way around.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's
I think I'd agree with that. Yeah.
That's the best case scenario, right? Would be that to happen.
It's crazy to me how much important stuff is happening. Like how many really big things are happening, like in transmedia stuff.
Yeah, like Desmond's son, and they're finishing the Project Phoenix storyline, right? In the comics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, so ridiculous.
It's what are you doing? Why are you doing that? That's crazy.
And there's also just so much of it. Like there's so many comic series, and that's not even counting like the book series, right? Like there's a whole bunch of books as well, and like it's just this explosion that just kind of felt like there was no real ramp up. It was just all of a sudden here's the fire hose of like, and it's overwhelming. Like I was gonna make a video about it at some point about how overwhelming it is, because it's just like absolutely
it's insane.
Crazy.
Like I tried the other day to start reading the comics, and I realized how much there was, and I was like, I will maybe do this sometime, but not now. It's just too much. Just far.
And they don't even provide a guide, like you need to read like this series and this series, but like because the Assassins and Templars comics basically merge into Uprising later.
Yeah, they do.
And then you have Last Descendants Locus, which is like a spin-off of the books, but like they don't tell you like what order you should read those in, because there's a trilogy of books, and I don't know where the comic falls in there. Like, so I'm just hoping I'm reading it in the right order and stuff. Yeah. And so it's like there's a lot of issues with how they're handling it right now, I think.
There's a lot of things, and I think for anyone that does want to get into the extended media, I think the best guide I've found is on the Assassin's Creed Universe channel. They had a video on it where they go through like each thing and what it means to the franchise, and through that you can kind of go, okay, this is what I need to read, and this is what I can kind of maybe save for later, and that sort of thing. That's where I went, and it's super helpful. So I recommend that.
Okay. I must have missed that one. That's awesome.
James, check Facebook, by the way.
Okay.
With I'm just shitting myself right now. What I just sent you. Have you guys seen the new IGN like first footage? Like some of because they're getting so much exclusives with Origins, right? Gameplay wise, they've gone over like Bayek as a character, and kind of this kind of goes back story wise as to, I guess, with who Bayek is, because it's not like a young man, right? Like he's in his 30s when this game starts, so there's no like coming of age storyline. So when it comes, and he's, what's the word for like his role in the Egypt culture? What's that word?
Magi.
Magi.
I think it is.
Magi. Yeah.
Do you think being a Magi, is going to be similar, because it doesn't seem very similar. It's kind of like Batman more than it's being an assassin, right? Like,
well, I heard them describe it as sheriff. Was how they described it. He's kind of like a law person,
sort of, but like way kind of more important, because he's like the Magi. The Magi are the ancient protectors of the Pharaoh.
Exactly.
So
but like they also protect the people.
They do. They're the Pharaoh's protectors that protect the land for the Pharaoh, but also protect the Pharaoh. That's how I would best look at it.
Do you think that narratively for Bayek, it's going to almost be, because to me it is a big difference between assassin and what they're describing his role as a Magi as, which is kind of like a fucking superhero at this point, because he's like the only one left. He's like a Spartan from Halo or something. Will he have to kind of? It'll almost be quite a modern undertone of narrative thread about kind of the world changing.
Yeah, that's
and
what
kind
I've
of having to accept the world changing, and the assassins are kind of, or at least the Order and Brotherhood of Assassins are a response to the new way the world is.
Yeah, that's what
we've seen how it changes, right? But how does it get introduced? And how do the Templars fit into that?
Yeah, I have a theory for how the story's going to play out. Right, so Bayek is a Magi, right? And he's, that's how he is. And like Ashraf's described it, Bayek is the embodiment of ancient Egypt. Like, he carries all their old ideals and things like that it would be ancient Egypt. And obviously things are changing now. You've got all these different cultures coming in from like Rome and Greece and all over the world coming into Egypt, which obviously is great. And Bayek has to adapt to this. And the way I think that the Brotherhood's going to be somewhat formed is the way that, I don't know, I think it's the way that it's been described by Ashraf, and also the way that I've kind of thought about it through trailers and things, is that it seems to me that Bayek will early on come into contact with a piece of Eden, similarly to Connor maybe, and through that will realize that there's multiple people throughout the world who are using maybe pieces of Eden or maybe not to control people and take away their freedom. And I think Bayek is going to go through the world to take out these various leaders and people that are controlling, and that'll kind of be his goal. It'll be through the pieces of Eden and through the Isu that will, because I'm pretty sure Ashraf said something about Bayek being contacted by it's something to do with some organization or something, and I just feel like it just what I'm thinking of feels very similar to the way it's been talked about. So I feel like it's going to be pieces of Eden. I feel like pieces of Eden are going to be very prominent in the game, especially since it's the time period that it's in. And I feel like that will somehow lead to him being like, okay, so this is what's happened to me now. So let's take these ideals and let's form a brotherhood from it, so that all throughout history there are going to be these people who are going to try and control your freedom, and we're going to have this order that is born from my ideals and morals that will stop that from happening in the future. That's my theory.
God, that's solid, man.
I hope I'm right.
Plausible to me. We do know that there is Apple in the game, and
yeah, we do.
It is the right time period for the Ankh and maybe the Shroud. That's one of the things I'm actually looking forward to a lot. Is I think once you go back in history a bit more, you can kind of lean a little more into
the mythology.
Yeah, more mythology, which is what they're doing for Origins with Egyptian mythology, and kind of use pieces of Eden a little more frequently and have them be a little more prominent. Someone at one point on one of my streams or something has talked about like having an Assassin's Creed game set like in like a King Arthur Assassin's Creed game, and initially I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird, but then I thought about it, I'm like, well, I mean, like the Sword of Eden I think is actually King Arthur's sword. So I feel like that's somewhere there, and then I was thinking like, it'd actually be really cool to almost have like this fantasy game where almost like you're equipped with like the Sword of Eden at all times, and it's just like you just lean really heavily into like all the first Civ stuff because it's so long ago, and the records aren't as what's the word, up to date, or
yeah, because that was the problem.
I mean?
With the most recent games is like we know everything. We know what people said. You know what I mean? You're like word for word.
It's all just very factual, whereas like then you get back into biblical times and they're like, yeah, and then his staff became a snake. And it's like, you can, like totally just like and you can totally just start leaning into to these fantastical elements like the pieces of Eden to explain them away, and I'm really looking forward to that in Origins. So it'd be cool if it plays out like you mentioned.
What do you think the role of Assassin's Creed 1, and I say this because it's been brought up by Ashraf a lot, about it being the 10-year anniversary of Assassin's Creed 1, and this is going to be a really special fan service. Like
legacy
James's theory is legacy missions, and this is what I want, but I just think it's very far-fetched in terms of how crazy it would be to have like a mission structure. Well, it came from, you got this is all James' idea, by the way, like with legacy outfits, that we've got in each game, but there's a mission to acquire those where you have to play as that assassin for like a 4-minute mission, like a little set piece mission, and then you acquire their outfit in the game. So you'll actually get to play as like Ezio for 4 minutes, Altair or Arno and stuff, whether they have voice actors there or it's just like you play as the character for a very basic set piece thing. You just kind of get to do that.
So I love the idea. I would bet money that that's not what we'll actually see, just because for two reasons, I guess.
I'm convinced. I've convinced myself.
Unity's ultimate honey dick at the start of the game, where you see all these missions in there, that I legitimately thought when I first saw, I'm like, no, wait, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Ubisoft, do it. I talked about this in Wishlist. I'm just hoping they watched it and they were like, yeah, let's do it.
You know that Darby's the one who did that, right?
Oh, of course it was. Who else would it be?
That's sassy man. Just
So here's the reason that you're not going to see that, and I'm like almost positive that you won't see it, is because they were able to do it in stuff like Unity just because they were able to reuse a lot of assets, because you were still in Paris like for all of these. It's just Paris at different time periods, but like it's really it's really resource intensive to make a bunch of unique environments.
Yeah, of course.
And I really don't think that they would do that for something as
4 minutes. Yeah.
Oh,
for something
anyway. Just do it anyway.
Or even if it's a longer mission, but like it would still be kind of like a side thing,
Sure, but just
what do you
even just copy the assets from the old games. I don't even care.
So it's running a different engine, right? Like a totally different engine.
Just do I don't even care what it is. I should just do it.
Sorry, real quick. The other reason I don't think they do that is because they just did Assassin's Creed Reflections, which is the comic series that explores stories for Altair, Ezio, and Connor, I believe. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah,
but
I've seen it.
Literally,
Connor's daughter can control eagles and stuff.
Oh, I don't know about. I haven't read it yet.
But
but they've already kind of explored that space. You know what I mean, like narratively. And so I feel like that lessens the chance that they would do that in the game.
Okay.
Just make an Ezio game where he's 58, for God's sakes. I don't care. Just give me him back for a couple of hours, and then I can die happy. That's all I want.
I have a question.
Well, you didn't get your fill with Assassin's Creed Chronicles China and Ezio?
Fuck you. How dare you? How dare you say that?
Oh, God. It's only okay because Loomer got Roger to do the correct lines. It's only okay because of that. I do have a question, though, regarding... we talked about legacy missions. They have said there are other playable characters, right?
They didn't say playable. They just said...
No, they did say... Darius... No. Ashraf has said for select missions. There are other playable characters for select missions.
Darius is in the IMDb page.
That's true, he is. But, like, what are they doing? Because he said...
So IMDb is...
Yeah, it's really... Because remember back in Revelations when it said the old voice actor was coming back for Altair, but it wasn't at all him?
Okay.
IMDb is, like, notorious for having really bad early information.
So we can't.
So I would not rely on that. But
still, Ashraf has said there are select missions, right, with other characters.
I think the most likely thing would be if that's. I haven't actually seen that quote, but I hear it come up fairly often.
I
think the most likely case is that you'll probably play as Aminette for a few missions. You might remember she is the Egyptian assassin
With the
underneath
snake.
Monterigi with the snake who kills Cleopatra.
That's true.
And it's her.
Oh, yes.
And it's her statue that is one of the seals that you have to get in Assassin's Creed 2 underneath Monterigi.
So what would...
Seems to
How
me
would
that's
you
most
do
likely.
that, though? Like, why would it transition over? Like, Ashraf's already said there's no rifts, so it's not that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how they're handling, like, the modern-day framework, right?
Which you know all about.
Which I know a little about.
I really
Well,
want to
how
know
do you-
all of your information.
Definitely not all.
How do you think they write out Bayek in the sense of, he's not one of the statues underneath Monterigi. He's not famous in the Assassins in the future. What happens? How does he do this? Is he even the one that starts the Order, or is he the one that inspires the Order?
Sounds like he's it sounds like he's the one who actually starts it because
Just bizarre,
Ashraf
man.
They've said
has
you'll see the rituals and stuff.
And Ashraf has said something. Someone asked like, "Oh, why doesn't Bayek do this or whatever?" And with the assassins, and Ashraf has basically said, literally, I think he hasn't done it because he hasn't founded the Brotherhood yet, or something along those lines. But very explicitly, like Bayek creates the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then what happens to him?
So, yeah, that's a really good question. They'll have to. I mean, the obvious answer is, well, they hadn't invented Bayek when they were making AC2.
No, you can't do that. Can't do that.
But you got to. I know you got to find like a good narrative reason for it, and I don't know. He could just not want the limelight, or I don't. It'll be something like.
I mean, Ashraf said that you will find out in the game. He said that they know that
he's the Johnny
wasn't
Depp.
around. So
He's the Johnny Depp of Assassins. Doesn't really want to hang out and get interviewed or anything. And spends like $2 million on security a month. Just
no cameras.
bowling.
No cameras.
Just bowling. Just bowling. He owns a town. Did you know that? He owns a town, Johnny Depp. He's just like,
what's it called?
I have no idea.
I
was listening. No, go on.
Okay, I was just gonna say real quick, like, they had the same issue with Shay, and Forsaken.
Dumbest fucking retcon. He's not even in Forsaken. Like, he's not. They never talk about him. He's not like he was the worst way to handle a retcon. Like, that was really bad.
Well, no, but I mean, so this is what I mean though. It's the exact same situation where they hadn't invented Shay when they were making AC3 and when they were writing Forsaken, and then they decided to bring him in later, and then you have to find a reason for why he's not in there, and they didn't really do that for him. Yeah, but I think I said this in my podcast with Richard, Sunset Again, who is like this fan artist who now actually makes like covers for the comics and the books, and she's amazing. Okay. But like she had made like a comic where like they had this whole scene at like a bonfire where Shay really eloquently asked Haytham to like, or like he rips out like his pages from
I've
Haytham's
seen it, yeah.
And stuff, and it's like done really well. And they could
I
do
thought
something.
that was canon when I saw it, and then I was like, oh, it's
no.
And then I was like, it's not canon.
Thing, yeah, but
cool.
It should be.
It should be,
like,
for sure.
It's probably the best explanation you can come up with in a scenario like that, where you eventually come back and add another character to a time period that you didn't have him in before, and that's exactly what they're going to do with. I mean, that's exactly the situation they have with Bayek, and it's going to be interesting to see because it could be handled as gracefully as that comic, or they could just.
I feel they'll touch upon it. They have to touch upon it.
They have to, though, right?
They have to. They can't just leave it. Like, it would make no sense. Like, Altair has no knowledge of Bayek. Like, he knows all this stuff about the Assassins, but he knows nothing about Bayek. There's got to be something they do.
It would be really... But it also might be something
strange.
that it might be something that they don't address in this game, though. You might find out that, like, there are records of Bayek and the formation of the Brotherhood, but that they're destroyed in, like, a fire, like, 600 years later.
When they destroyed the Library of Alexandria, that destroyed everything.
There's a bunch of different ways they could tackle it, and even if they don't address it in this game, it doesn't mean that it couldn't be addressed in another game, but we'll see.
I mean, there's a sequel comic, right? There's a prequel book and a sequel comic to Origins, right?
Yeah, I think so. This is what I was saying earlier. It's really hard to keep track of everything.
Yeah, there's a lot
these days. But yes, I believe the book is a
there
prequel, and the comic, I think is a sequel. I'm not
Yeah, I think that's how it is. Because I think the book is like a prequel talking about like his days as a Medjai and like growing up and stuff. So there's that origin of him if you like want to read it, but they didn't feel like they had to do that in the game. And then the comic is like a sequel, and that's what brought up the whole will there be a Bayek sequel, because someone tweeted and they were like, oh, so there's a comic that's going to be the sequel to Origins, so does that mean we're not getting a trilogy? And then Aymar was obviously he's not going to say anything, is he? But he was like, oh, I see Origins isn't even out yet and you already want a second game. I love seeing your confidence. And it's like, that's not really what we meant, but I mean, whatever. It's like, I know you're not going to answer it, but
I don't whether it's Connor, whether it's my favorite character or my least favorite character. I just want narrative commitment to characters, because he can only really get better with the sequels. Like, if Connor had a sequel, I don't think I'd like him less. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh, well, okay. How does he grow? What happens next? You know what I mean?
Connor's best section they took out of the game. That
I could only like more, in my opinion, with him growing up and kind of like, at least if he's going to go full arsehole, then I'd like to see him go full arsehole, mad respect. Or if he's going to go like kind of mature, kind of a grounded character, then I'd like to see it. I don't just want to have this story that I wasn't, very fond of and that I thought there were a lot of mistakes with. If they did have a sequel with him, at this point, I just want to have a commitment that when I buy a game and I spend whatever the money costs to have this game, that I'm investing my time not just to play a one-off game, but there's going to be follow-up stories. I'm investing in the future, not just the now, which is all Assassin's Creed's been. There's been no real solid modern day or characters that have been ongoing since Ezio, and Altair as well. So I'm just kind of like, it's hard to care when Ubisoft don't care about these characters once the game's released. So here's the game, and we don't care about them anymore.
That's true.
Well, I think they're trying to follow up a little more, especially with Connor. They gave him that comic that seems to have been received pretty well.
That's a comic,
by
even
Connor fans.
Yeah, but you can't.
Even
at the same time,
it sounds better.
Well, I mean, yes, it's just a comic, but like you can't really expect them to make like a trilogy for every protagonist like they did with Ezio.
They don't need to, but like they don't need to. Like, what they did with Altair, I thought was great. You got more of him in, like, we got a bit of him in 1, which was great, and it's like, okay, there's his character, then we get a new character, and then they talked about him, and he was part of Assassin's Creed 2. Like, it felt like a sequel because Mario acknowledged him, Ezio acknowledged him, Desmond acknowledged him. We even had a little memory with him where we got to play as him, so it's like he's not forgotten. And then Brotherhood was more about Ezio and Desmond, and then Revelations again Altair was a huge point of that. And like, that's kind of, if you're not going to do a direct sequel with a character, at least have him be relevant to the characters in the next game, I think is a way of doing it. And they haven't done that since Ezio and Altair. Like, with 3, Connor's pretty much never mentioned again, other than like little tiny throwaway things, like where what's his name, Belek, this talks about like Altair, Ezio, Connor, like when he's talking to Arno. It's kind of like little things like that, little throwaway lines, whereas Altair was integral to the Ezio trilogy and to Desmond. So, it's if you're not going to do a trilogy, do it the way they did Altair, is I think how I would look at it.
Yeah, I still think Altair, he's pretty, Ezio is obviously my favorite assassin, but Altair is, a close second in terms of narrative, because even to me still, when I play Assassin's Creed 1, there's still an aura of mystery around that whole assassin culture and Creed as an organization, because they live in a fucking castle on a mountain in Syria. How the fuck did that happen? Like, even then, I'm still like, that's a powerful, mysterious order. What kind of influence and things have they done to lead up to that? So, I'm interested in this time period that leads to Assassin's Creed 1 with the Assassins, because there's so much there that still interests me anyway, even after Altair's had so much story told.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. What else do we have? I've got a massive list here, but we've barely touched on any of it because we've just... I knew this would happen. As soon as there's the 4 of us on, I'm like, you don't really need to have much planned. We're just going to talk and talk and talk. It'll be fantastic. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of Origins or Assassin's Creed or the community mentors guild stuff? We've kind of touched on a lot of stuff in the last 2.5 hours.
Nothing on my end. I think we covered a pretty good spectrum.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, everyone's gonna really enjoy this discussion. I wanted to kind of maybe move on from Assassin's Creed. There's a couple of topics going on that I wanted to talk about. One was that Nick brought a topic to me before the podcast that he wanted to discuss. I'm pretty sure Nick's still here. I really hope he is. I think he just muted me.
No, still here.
But this is I guess involved the community, but this is just completely off of video games at this point. But just to kind of have a good discussion, I think Loomer, it'd be great to hear your perspective from it, because you've gone through similar things as well. So our friend Brett, or Ubicentral, people who don't know, he's just moved states. He's just moved out of home, and he was already living out of his parents, from his parents or anything, but moved states, moved cities across the country, from Florida to the state of Washington, literally the opposite side of the country, in every way. And Nick, you're doing the same. You're about to leave home and go over to Europe for like a year. Is your plan, isn't it?
Yeah, gonna move in, I think it's 17 days. I'm moving to London, and I'm gonna stay in London for a few months, and then I'm gonna backpack around Europe for another few months.
So you brought up a topic. Do you want to bring it up and kind of talk about that?
Well, yeah, so moving away from your support structure is kind of a big deal, I think, especially into a city that you've never been to before. Like, I've never been to London before, at all. I don't know how much Brett has gone to where he's moving to. I don't know if he said what city in Washington he's moved to, but or where in Washington he's moving to. But I think that moving away from friends and family is like a huge thing, and it can be difficult to make new friends or kind of get a kind of structure going. And I know, Tyler, you have done that before. You literally have moved cities away from pretty much everything that your friends and family and stuff, and you got set up a new city. So I was curious to hear what you might think, if you had any tips for someone moving to somewhere new and trying to get settled.
Oh yeah. No, I get you. Loomer, have you done that? Or your family in California?
Oh no, I don't have any family in California. I left my family behind when I went to school in Pittsburgh for college, and then after that I moved to Boston for 5 years working, and then I moved here to California about 5 years ago as well. And so the last 15 years have been without none of my family has lived in any of those places, and so kind of been uprooted each time.
So what was that experience like for you? I've got my own perspectives, but for you, when you first left home, because I know there's a lot of people that listen to this are quite young, or at least coming to that age where they're finishing high school or moving on to college or university or so forth. So I think this is a great discussion to have. So when Nick brought it up, I wanted to hear, so where do you sit on that? How was it for you?
I think it's always pretty much been a good experience. I'm a big proponent of doing things in your life every maybe 3 to 5 years. You should probably make at least one big life change that's kind of terrifying. And I think
absolutely,
I think that's because otherwise it's too easy to just kind of grow stagnant, and it pretty much always works out. Friends wise, I just quit my job a month ago, and that was slightly terrifying. It was a pretty good job, as I get older, really I should be called the grandfather of the AC series. I'm fucking old. but as I've gotten older, I think you just get more and more, you just realize more and more that at the end of the day, there's very few things that actually it's easy to worst case scenario a lot of things. What if I move somewhere and I just don't meet any friends and I'm just all alone and super lonely, and it's really easy to kind of focus on that. But once you take kind of leaps a few times, you realize that pretty much almost always works out, and pretty much always works out for the better. So I don't know if I have much in the way of really specific tips, go to your local bar or I don't know, nothing as much as that, but just don't worry about, if you're worried about it, try not to worry as much, and have a little try to have a little faith that things in life generally work out pretty well, no matter, as long as your basic needs are met,
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the terms of being terrifying is a great word because that's what it is at first. I mean, I left the state and city that I grew up in, almost 3 years ago now, and when I moved from Brisbane in Queensland down to Melbourne, Victoria, and it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life, but by far, not even close, the best decision I ever made in my life. Because like you change so much, and you give up. The first thing is you got to want to do it. So to anyone that's just like listening to this that thinks, I want to move out of home and go to this place or go to that place, or that would sound good. The number one thing is you have to want to do it. It can't be a half-assed sort of thing because you're giving up everything, really, that in life. Your day-to-day, waking up where you wake up, the people you see on a regular basis, the place you work, that sort of thing. It is a lot to give up, but it doesn't mean it's going to be bad or anything because my life in Melbourne is the best it's ever been, and the things I've got to do, the opportunities I've had. And in terms of when it comes to like making friends and stuff, I mean, honestly, for you, Nick, or for Brett, I recommend, I know this is for me, this is probably what I'd do. I mean, I was lucky because I, went to university when I moved here. So I made friends through the job I have. And then I made friends through, studying, you kind of work with people and then you network. And I got a bunch of opportunities real quick for outside projects as well. So I was very lucky in that sense. But if I was going to move, because I'm planning in 2 years to move to, at least in my head is LA, is to go to America and live out of there to do, stand up and to do,
Dude, that's
filmmaking.
sick. I didn't know
stuff.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that's in my head. That's my next step. I've got a couple of years I want to save and work and stuff. I want to, have my goal by 2019 is to have my own comedy show on the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and then from there be able to go to LA, the capital of film and the capital of comedy, the two things I love most, to be able to really do that sort of stuff. So plus I think moving's a big thing, and as much as I thought when I moved to Melbourne I'd be in Melbourne for 20 years. I just saw, because this is in Australia, this is the place to be for media and entertainment. But I realized after doing what I've done at university that I'm like, well, I'm kind of done with the city, and not in a bad way. This will always be a part of my home. I was born here originally before I moved as a kid, but this will always be a second home to me. But you just kind of realize you get inspiration for other things. And I think, Loomer, you said the best. I think you have to shock your life. It's kind of an addiction. Don't you reckon? Like the feeling, I'm kind of addicted to being terrified and uneasy because it's such a rewarding thing. The risk reward for it's crazy.
It's you after you've done it a couple times, like kind of shaken up your life a little bit, you realize, I think, that it's a really great way to grow as a person, especially when you're moving.
Absolutely.
Like I'm a big advocate to like kind of live and visit as many places as you really can, because like the people you meet in all these places, the experience you have with different cultures, I think is one of the biggest ways to kind of grow like as an adult. And so I'm like a huge advocate for doing that. And so I can totally see how you can kind of get the itch to do that if you've been you stayed in one place for too long, feeling a little stagnant, if you've seen kind of like how beneficial it can be when you've done it in the past. Yeah.
I think that's where I'm at, and I think, like you said, it doesn't just have to be moving; it could be traveling. When I went to, and I did Italy and stuff. That for me was before I moved. So I was still at home. That was my first experience of even going overseas, and I was on my own. I was just with one of my best mates, and to see those things and experience that was. And a whole different culture that speaks a different language, that's its own thing. That's its own amazing experience. Yeah. And for you, Nick, going to Europe, and you're not just staying in one place, you're going to be going to jump into different places, is amazing. And I think you are a social person, Nick, and I think you're going to find it easier than maybe you think. But you really have to stick your neck out. And I think, honestly, this might sound a bit ridiculous, but this is what I would do if I were you. I'd be getting on Tinder hard when I move somewhere.
I have set it up.
I'm being dead serious, because like
Oh,
you know, a
man.
lot of people that you meet on those sites, like a lot of the descriptions, lots of these girls are just like, I've just moved to Melbourne, or just traveling to Melbourne. It's like some people, like, it's honestly it's not even about just fucking people. I'm just saying it's
The world is your oyster, Nick, and you gotta fuck it.
Just fuck my way through
Not
London.
where I expected the conversation to go.
my advice to you is just to get all the AIDS, but no.
Oh god. Holy shit.
It's just if you haven't had sex with someone from every country in Europe, I'm going to be disappointed. No, that's not what I'm saying. I would never say that. That is ludicrous. And please do it or I'll be mad. No, I'm joking. I swear to God. No, but you can meet people, make friends through there. You know, it is a weird way to do it. I would go to things like, for me, the thing I look forward to, and in my head when I'm thinking about going to like LA, is I want to be involved in film and comedy. You know, I'm going to go to every open mic comedy night I can go to, and you just meet from in Melbourne scene. You just meet people within the first couple of times I went and did stand up. You know, you make such great friends. I was lucky I had a friend that's brought me into it, so I already had one of my closest friends doing it. But you make connections, and you just sit there and you talk to people after, because most of the time there's not a single person there that's not a comedian. It's just like 15 comedians not laughing at each other's jokes, and they're all fucking miserable sometimes, or sometimes they're all in a great mood and all drunk. But at the end of the night, everyone just kind of stays, has a beer, and chats to each other and talks shit, and you just kind of end up adding people on Facebook, and all of a sudden you have a connection, or you bring something up in conversation. Like I brought up with someone that, oh, I'm doing film and I love to film, and they told me they filmed for a pro wrestling organization. So I started filming for pro wrestling before I even started university. Like, I moved for university, but before I even had my first class, I was already filming for this Melbourne pro wrestling company, and I met a bunch of people I used to watch as a kid in WWE. I was like, what the fuck is going on? So just by like going out and being social and putting yourselves in those positions, you just meet people, and if you have a real conversation with someone, it's very surprising at first that the people that are in those positions that you talk to have the same mindset you do. That's why they're there. So you'll be surprised how much in common you have with those people, and how quickly and easy it is to actually find opportunities from there. So for you, Nick, it's about, I think, going out there and being social, in a sense of, you're going there for experience, right? Like, do you plan on working?
Yeah, I'm gonna work there too. I got the there's some special visa that I have because of my New Zealand citizenship. I can stay and live and work in the UK for 2 years.
Well, for you, it would be, when it comes to working, that's where you make friends and ask people, oh, you guys want to go for a drink or something? But for sure, get Tinder seriously, and it's not.
Dude, I have Tinder. I set it up just for this.
Okay, good. Then you're doing the right thing. Already in good hands. Like, yeah, I like where your head's at. But no, just be friends with them and fuck. But that's just,
Yeah,
I'm a scumbag, so it's okay.
Times before, as we've discussed on this podcast.
But yeah, it's certainly an interesting thing. And for Brett, obviously, good luck to him. I know, I just saw the tweet, his car's arrived. Old Bumblebee's arrived at his place.
I love his car so much.
It's just I just advocate for, like you said, Loomer, shake up your life. Just do things, but you've got to want to do it, because it's very hard. So you've got to want it enough, or else it's very easy to kind of quit. But at the same time, this was my mindset when I moved. I was like, what's the worst case scenario? I run out of money, nothing goes right, and I go back to exactly where I was before. But at least I have, however long I lasted, amount of experience of trying to do it. You win or you learn. If you're doing something, you're out there trying, you can't lose. You can only learn from it, or you can win. There's always wins to be had.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's well said.
It's a
Thank
great
you for that one, Tyler.
Yeah, that's all right.
Appreciate
that's right,
it.
James. That's okay. James, when are you moving out of home?
Fuck off.
I'm sure Julie and Stu want you the fuck out of their house at this point.
I'm sure they do too. We'll get there.
Do they ever bring it up with you? They're like, James, what are you still doing here? Really?
How old are you, James?
Don't worry, I'm 20.
Okay.
And they're
You
not
wanna
telling you.
fight? Nah, don't worry, we'll get around to it. I mean, I'm not gonna stay here forever, obviously. The next couple of years.
God, I hope not. Jesus.
Obviously. Yeah, the next couple of years. I'm gonna do something. But I mean, my main goal for now is setting up, because like I'm obviously wanting to do a lot with YouTube, so I'm going into that, trying to do it, and we'll see where that takes me. But regardless of that, within the next year or two, I'm planning on moving out. So
your parents are so patient. It's crazy.
They're wonderful people. I love them very much.
Yeah. Oh, they're so understanding. It's fantastic. But I guess you've also got George there, so it's easier. Like it was easy for my older brother, still being at home with uni when I was still in high school. Like it's not really a discussion that gets brought up, but as soon as I moved out, because I moved out before my brother has, and my parents are like, okay, bro, let's get the fuck out of the house. Your younger brother's out. You need to get the fuck out of here. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
So you just got to move out before George. That's the key for you.
Sure. I'm pretty sure I will. I hope anyway.
Pretty sure you will.
Pretty sure I will.
Thanks, bro. We got some cool news in the last 24 hours.
We did?
Which is Obi-Wan Standalone Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
Fuck yes.
Love it. As long as it's Ewan McGregor. If it's anyone else.
Oh, it's gotta be.
Crazy.
Who the fuck else is it gonna be?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going for Origin, there was a brief rumor, like, because they're in really early talks about the thing in the first place. There's no script or anything. But they said if they go, there's an idea that they might go origin story, similar to the doing with Han Solo. And if they are going origin story, then Ewan would be too old.
What is a youngling? Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, what are they gonna do? Like, we've seen like Obi-Wan, in the Phantom Menace. Like, do we need to see him any younger than that? Like, who fucking cares about that? Let's see some stuff. In between
I agree.
Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Like, let's get that shit. Like, we've seen some stuff like that's happening in Rebels, awesome. Like with Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. Like, there's so many more stories that could happen during his time on Tatooine. So fucking do that.
What kind of story do you guys want to see from it? Do you want it to be a space adventure Obi-Wan Jedi film, or do you want it to be a real grounded philosophical movie where he doesn't leave Tatooine, he doesn't even use his lightsaber.
I have 5 words. My 5-word pitch. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Wick, but Star Wars.
I haven't seen John Wick, but
dude,
okay, relax. Relax.
You haven't seen fucking John Wick? It's one of the only Blu-rays I own. I have 3 Blu-rays, and John Wick is one of them.
Why is everyone so defensive of that movie? I'm not talking shit about it, for God's sake.
I haven't seen it either, but I've heard good things.
Last 5 years.
It's really good. I haven't seen Chapter 2 yet.
Why is it good? Why is it good? Like what?
Dog a lot. Like what are you talking about?
Sell it to me. Go, Nick. Why is it good? Why should I watch it?
Hey, I'll sell it to you. Keanu Reeves loves his dog a lot and kills people about a dog. That's all I know about it.
That sounds like the story of Watch Dogs. Only like Aiden Pearce kills people over his niece.
Yeah, except he's a lot less bitchy than Aiden. So I would just say it's, action movies have become far too elaborate and clunky and unnecessary in the last 10 years or so. John Wick pulls it all back and makes it really, really simple in a brilliant way that there's depth if you look into it, but you can absolutely enjoy it on a face value. And the action sequences are absolutely astounding. He does all of his own stunts, like every single stunt is him, and he did like 9 months of 9 to 5 training on weekdays to be able to do these films. And the story is brilliant. It's a very simple story, but it's awesome and it's intriguing and there's a lot. Yeah, that's fucking. God damn it, guys! Everyone needs to watch it.
Okay, I'll watch it. I'll watch it. All right.
So if you're saying John Wick but Star Wars, would I ask would you make him use a lightsaber, or would that be something he just doesn't do? He just left it behind. It's too much pain.
I think they could use it, like, because what I want is basically the Tatooine story where there's an older Obi-Wan. He's left his name Obi-Wan behind. He's gone by Ben now, and something happens where he's forced to stop being just the old man in the desert, and he has to come back to being an action rock star briefly.
And then there's this scene when he's like pouring sand through his hands. He's like, just when I thought I was out. Back in.
Yeah. Pretty much. And I think they could use the lightsaber, like maybe for like 1 or 2 scenes. He gets it right at the very end, like the bloody sawed-off shotgun in the original Mad Max. Like it's iconic of the character now, but maybe we only see it pretty briefly, and those brief scenes are the best part because of that. Or they could not use it at all, and he could just be a badass and just have guns and shit.
I mean, sure. I mean, the thing with Obi-Wan now.
Yeah, the thing.
You've got to.
That's what was missing from Obi-Wan. Like dual wielding pistols.
I'm trying to make a point, and I can't do it.
I'm saying
on Tatooine. Let's do
it. Ben shot first. I swear.
The thing with Obi-Wan is now that he's been in Rebels, like.
Has he been in Rebels? So
yeah.
He doesn't stay on Tatooine. He does leave Tatooine.
No, he's on Tatooine. It's only in one episode, and it's his like because like over the course of Clone Wars and then Rebels, he has this like vendetta with Darth Maul. It's done really, really well. The writing's fantastic. Those are the best parts of Clone Wars and Rebels to me. Is the Darth Maul story.
Is this the Darth Maul where he's like replaces bottom half of his body with like a spider body?
Okay, no. He's okay. So he escapes. So he escapes Naboo, and then he's a spider. But after that, he gets like resurrected by the the sisters.
After the Spider-Man Chronicles,
just forget the spider bit, and everything else is wonderful. Just forget the spider bit. Okay. After that, everything else. I mean, even the writing when he's the spider is great. It's just the fact that he's a spider is fucking retarded. But like the writing, the way that he's like obsessed with Kenobi and everything is done really well. Like the way that he's kind of gone insane with this like hating Kenobi and everything he's way better in those like Clone Wars and Rebels than he is in the Phantom Menace. But the fact that Kenobi is in Rebels for that one episode, you've kind of got to tie that in a way. I don't like. I mean, it's kind of like just there, but like I guess you could build. It's weird when they have things inside media, then you've kind of got to do it in a movie, but it's still canon. So I mean, they've kind of got to consider that, but I guess I don't know. I mean, we know he was on Tatooine the whole time because he's got to watch over Luke. It'd be kind of irresponsible if he like kind of fucked off for a bit to go like get a space beer or something. I don't know. What do you do when you want to pop out? I don't know. Like it's kind of got to all be on Tatooine if you're doing that period.
But what if he has? Okay, I'm gonna go real theoretical with this.
Okay.
What if he has a space car that he drives around on Tatooine?
A space car, like a speeder.
A Russian, yeah, sure. A Russian kid comes up and he says, yeah.
A Russian kid.
Yeah. A Tatooine Russian kid comes up and says he likes the car.
Okay.
And Obi-Wan's like, "It's not for sale." Okay. And the Russian kid's like, "Yeah, sure, everything's got a price." And he's like, and he speaks Russian, and he's like, "Not this one." And then the Russian kid follows him back to his house. He kills Obi-Wan's space dog, takes his space car.
No.
Is this John Wick?
This is John Wick.
Just give me the plot to John Wick. Is that what you're doing right now?
Okay. Obi-Wan has to track down this Russian kid because it turns out he's part of the Russian mob, and his dad is the head honcho of the Russian mob, and he works his way through the Russian mob.
So what you're telling me?
You could totally do this.
So you've been telling me about this movie you want me to watch, and now you're spoiling that movie for me. Is that what you're trying to do right now? Is that your theory here?
First 5 minutes, but yeah.
Okay. So
not gonna lie, you could kind of do that though. Like you could have like a little kind of. I mean, obviously Obi-Wan doesn't have a.
They steal his
dog,
lightsaber.
Like, you know. I mean, they could. I mean, I
feel
feel like
there's mobsters. We have those sand people that he clearly has some kind of experience with. Yeah,
he could be attacked by anyone. Like, I mean, he got like Darth Maul had a vendetta with him. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who are like, fuck Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's done a lot of shit during the Clone Wars.
I got a question. James.
Okay.
Because you've watched the Darth Maul stuff, would it be possible to set up an Obi-Wan movie where somehow Darth Maul gets, a hint onto Obi-Wan, and that's kind of the storyline?
That is Rebels.
But does Darth Maul die?
Do you want me to spoil it?
No. But like, is it so? All I'm asking here is, James, is it possible that Darth Maul shows up in an Obi-Wan standalone movie or not?
No.
Okay, great.
I feel like that's iffy because for the people who've only seen the films, they'd be reintroducing Darth Maul out of completely nowhere.
Yes, you really couldn't do it.
So they'd have to do that very well.
That's why he's in Clone Wars and Rebels, because then that's a continuing storyline where people can Like, extended media, people can just obviously stay up to date. But if you're doing it in a movie, that would be weird for him to just come out and be like, wait, Darth Maul from the first
Yeah, and then
one?
like they have to go do this flashback thing. There's like he was a spider for a bit. Let's just ignore that.
He was a
move
spider
on.
for a bit, then he got big horns.
You don't have to flashback it. You don't have to flashback it. You can.
I'm sure.
Better
No,
ways
but
to
because he hasn't been seen for like 18 years.
It can be
by
a
the time
whole
this
other-
game,
you can-
by the
He
time this
killed a
movie
lot
comes
of
out.
people. Darth Maul did a lot of shit. He fought like Darth
As a
Vader at
spider?
one point. Like, he did a lot of shit.
What? Why was he fighting? Okay.
He didn't. Okay, he didn't fight
that.
Darth Vader, but he came into contact with Darth Vader.
Can you set a trap for like Obi-Wan in the movie and be like, "Step into my web," and it'd be like, "Oh."
He was a spider for 5 minutes in the Clone Wars. Still
Come
dumb
on,
though.
Jack.
Still definitely dumb though.
Yeah. Why was he a spider?
I don't know. Like, I can understand him repairing like his broken limbs out of things he found, but I don't know why he made himself a spider. Like, it doesn't really. Do they have spiders in space? I've never seen one.
I've
Like,
now
that's
changed my
good
mind, and I want Desmond back in the series, but only if he comes back as a half mecha spider. Because everyone's always like, they should bring back Desmond, and now I'm just gonna be like, only as a mecha spider.
That'd be
But
fantastic.
yeah, but I want a montage at the start where he's like training as the mecha spider on like a treadmill and got stuff Abstergo stuff attached to him. And they're like, we can rebuild him. We have the technology, and then he's just
God.
like running, and then he's running on roofs and spinning like webs and shit like that. And I was like, this is perfect.
Scuttling
like-
along. Like,
Obi-Wan did teach Luke that great power comes with great responsibility, and Obi-Wan had to learn that from somewhere. So it could have been Darth Maul that taught him it from his experience as a spider.
Great power. You know, it's funny because Tyler once
Oh,
called Uncle Owen Uncle Ben,
They're all
which was
Uncle
Luke's
Ben.
uncle. Like,
Oh.
Maybe I was onto something. Maybe I was onto something.
maybe.
Why don't we just bring Tom Holland in at this point? Really? He can be Darth Maul.
Oh God. Oh God.
No, but he can play a young Luke Skywalker.
Oh,
Ooh.
Jesus.
Actually, I would not object to that.
Okay, yes, you would. Oh, I would. That's
Get
what
Mark
Tom
Hamill
Holland,
back.
like young Luke?
Mark Hamill can kneel, and he can just be
Yeah,
a young
but-
Luke.
We've already got a young Luke. It's called Mark Hamill in the 70s. What are we doing? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, you wouldn't need
mean-
a Luke, would you? Would you need? Nah, you don't
Like
need
this
Luke.
We don't
ridiculous
need him.
Han Solo movie. We
We
don't need it.
absolutely do not need him, but like a young Luke, Tom Holland. I do enjoy Tom Holland very much.
I like Tom Holland, but maybe not as Luke
Sounds like
Skywalker.
Jesus
But
Christ.
Have we talked about
We're not
Donald Glover
attracted to him. That's the
playing
difference here.
Lando
Um,
Calrissian yet? Because that is the best thing on the planet to me.
That's probably the only good cast. I'm like, I can get
Yeah.
there. I can fuck with that.
It's
fuck
the
with
best
that, yeah.
cast.
for
I don't-
the
yeah.
I don't
the
think
Han
that it
Solo
gets any
movie
better.
that we didn't ask for, and is probably gonna not be very good.
I mean, but
Donald
at least Donald
Glover's-
Glover as Lando will be the highlight of my entire life.
That
So
would be good. Yeah, I
maybe
agree.
just maybe
It'll be
relax on how
good.
much I think of recast Lando though. If that's the most exciting thing in your life though, you're about to move overseas, bro. What are you talking about?
I mean, but like, yeah, sure, living in another country that you've never been to before, but also Donald Glover, Childish Gambino as Lando Calrissian.
I mean, I guess
It's like
so,
it's like a 50-50 thing for me. Like, which one's more exciting?
I mean, it will be good. That's
yeah,
true.
sure. I guess super weird though. Jesus Christ, you got a hard on for Donald Glover. I mean, I love him too.
So, if we don't see John Wick but Star Wars, what's your idea for a Ben Kenobi? Because like James
Just have
mentioned that
him-
he really can't leave Tatooine.
He can't.
but
He
in the
doesn't leave
period-
Tatooine ever. He doesn't leave Tatooine. He stays on
yeah, that-
Tatooine. He
that's
the
promised
only-
Yoda. He'd be a fucking asshole if he left Tatooine.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be in hiding and everything. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
he just
There's
sticks
only
around.
there's only
Yeah,
three
don't worry.
three things I want to see from it. It is Ewan McGregor on Tatooine and is scared to use the lightsaber or reveal he's a Jedi. Like, that's a dark memory for him. It's real tough. I want it to be a real personal torn storyline where it's like a lot of mental anxiety he's going through and withdrawals. where he
That leads,
can't-
that leads up, and I think that Qui-Gon could make an appearance because that would lead in super well to his appearance in Rebels. That leads in incredibly well to A New Hope. So I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe even kind of mirror what Luke ends up doing in the future right? Where you have this story where Luke's isolated. This would kind of be like a movie version, but for Obi-Wan, of what happens later to Luke. Of maybe he has his own ideas of the future of the Jedi, but Obi-Wan never gets to act upon them, right?
Mm.
And he's just. I won't say Obi-Wan's a bit more hurt than Luke is, because you don't really know what happened to Luke. It sounds like his whole life and family were killed. So I'm sure he went through some shit. But we just don't know yet until that comes out, right? So I don't know. I don't really have any predictions what I want to see, other than there's a couple of restrictions you have to stick to. Number one being Ewan McGregor.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything
100%.
can go fuck itself. Yeah.
Yep.
If there's no Ewan McGregor, I kind of don't care about the movie anymore. That's
True.
why I want
It'll
the
be
movie.
Ewan McGregor. Has to be Ewan McGregor.
Because you've got the actor that's the perfect age to play that role. So
Definitely.
He did come back for Force Awakens. He voiced a line in Force Awakens as Obi-Wan. So
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor he has worked with Disney. So and he was on Sleeping Beauty, that movie. So he's got connections with Disney. So
He said
not
as well,
far back.
multiple
wants to do
times
it.
he wants to be involved. Yeah, 100%. If they ask me, I'm on board. So
Yeah, Obi-Wan, but with Ewan McGregor, but written well.
yeah,
great.
absolutely. Hey James,
Hello.
Origins parody.
Origins parody. Yeah, it's happening.
You
Cool. Right, cool.
like that? When's it? Give me more info. I need to know. I haven't heard about any of this.
What do I
okay.
know about it?
I'll sum up the Origins parody.
Alright,
And
go for it.
Wait. Some words.
Go
Words? I don't know.
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. John Wick, but Egypt.
Okay.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
That would be an Origins parody, though.
Nah, Egyptian dog. Russian
it'd have to be
kid.
Senu.
Oh yeah, Egyptian eagle, Russian
Yeah.
kid in Egypt.
Kills.
Chariot
by
instead of
eagle.
car. There you go. It all substitutes in, doesn't it?
Sure.
Okay, Nick. Maybe you need to let John Wick go a bit. Maybe.
No, I feel very strongly about this.
Oh, it sounds like you're crying. So I feel your emotions right now. I get that. No, for sure, man. Absolutely. But maybe not though, huh? James, when's the
Sorry.
Origins coming out?
I don't know yet.
How far are you through development?
But yeah.
But we finished it, kind of ish.
Oh,
I don't
You
know.
finished writing it or recording it?
Both.
Okay, you for sure. After this podcast, you're going to send me the assets you've got. Please,
might
I need
do.
to hear this.
I might
Yeah,
do.
please do that.
We're getting
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I was really upset when I saw you tweet that. I'm like, I did not know you were doing
I don't want to
this.
say anything yet. It came out of nowhere. Like literally, like I arranged with Luke. I was like we weren't even gonna be working on anything. I was just like, just come over and we'll just hang out. And then all of a sudden we made a fucking song, and I was like, oh, okay. So it happened, and then I was like, okay, I'll tweet it out to get everyone fucking excited, and hopefully it'll do better than the one for Syndicate did, because that did fucking appalling. But
But you're,
Yeah.
but Unite is so good. Still, Unite's some of my favorite of all the songs. you
Unite
parodied.
has 104,000 views.
Okay.
So far.
Whoa. That's good.
So does Defy as well. They're relatively similar in views. Whereas Take a Stand didn't even break 20k.
What about
No,
the Bloodstream parody, the Hunter one for Road? That did
50k?
alright.
I think it did 50k.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah, those are our top three: Unite, Defy, and Hunter. So Take a Stand. was
So
meh.
absolutely no ETA at all. No broad before Origins launch
It'll
day.
be
after.
before Origins. Yeah, just don't know when.
Okay.
I just like. I mean,
So
I know I'll finish
this
it
month?
soon, but
I can narrow this down. This month.
I don't think I don't know because if
It'll
I
be
finish
September.
it
It'll be
this
September.
month, I'll still release it later. I'll just schedule it and I'll just leave it up, and I'll just spend a couple of weeks hyping it up. And
So
I'll
what?
just,
End of
you know.
September, start of October. Probably.
I was thinking first week of October. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
There we
I
go.
was so-
ETA
yeah, just-
established. If it doesn't, we riot.
You went. Okay. Well, relax though. But the parody stuff definitely inspired me, James. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
All I was thinking about was free roam for justice, and I was like, and then I got onto that, and then I just all I wrote out. The first thing I wrote out was a bunch of questions I have, and then I sent those questions to you because I'm like, James, you're the person that actually takes
The lawkeeper.
the lawkeeper seriously of this storyline. I'm like, what do I do here? What do I do here? And you're just like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Why the fuck are you this? And I'm like, Yep, good, great questions, and this is why I come to you for this, is so I don't screw up the entire idea of this ridiculous free roam series where I do a Batman parody impression. I don't understand how this is what it is, but hilarious.
Look, if anyone's going to take it seriously, I am. I take everything too seriously.
That's true.
You've got to keep the lore to this, even if no one else cares. At least it's there.
Well, people were excited when I tweeted it out, but yeah, I'm very excited for season 3. And I think it's gonna be a really, really good idea. I've already started like working on your stuff in it, and like how I'm gonna start and finish it. Because I've had the ending of the whole series that I did when I did season Zorigin or whatever. I still don't know how I pronounce it in my own show.
Zorigin.
But yeah, Zorigin. I think that's the best way to say it. But yeah, I kind of came up with how I was gonna end it there. So I was just like, okay. But then I'm like, do I end it with 3? Do I keep going? I don't know.
Keep it open. Like, end it, but keep it open. So, like, if you ever wanted to do it again, you can.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to say that, whether I would or wouldn't do that.
I'm saying
because that kind of
as a suggestion. I'm saying it as a suggestion. You don't have to do it, but do it.
That's a good point. I've still got list stuff, but I mean, we've gone for 3 hours. Is there anything anyone wants to bring up? There's Uncharted: The Lost Legacy's coming out next week. That looks pretty fun.
That's exciting.
And there's not much else going on in the news other than, I don't know, biggest fight in combat sports history happens next Saturday, August 26th. McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. So if no one's watching that, get your shit on that. I've taken the whole weekend off work for this fight.
You're insane.
I can't wait.
Didn't you say you took 4 days off?
I've taken 4 days off of work.
4 days for okay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow,
so
what are you doing for those 4 days?
I'm flying home to Brisbane. I've got like a party I'm doing for the fight. I've got to buy I'm going to out after the fight, so I'm gonna buy a nice. I've already organised. I got this nice green shirt I want to buy, like real nice done up green shirt to represent Conor McGregor.
A bit of green.
To rep. To celebrate in the after party, going to go out, have some drinks with friends. So I'm just going to be all cleaned up, wearing some nice dapper green in celebration for Conor McGregor knocking out Floyd Mayweather, becoming the greatest athlete the world has ever seen. So
aren't you going to get a tattoo if he does?
I will. If Conor McGregor knocks out Floyd Mayweather, I will get a 49-1 tattoo.
Okay.
I support this.
Yeah, that's.
I will hold you to that.
I'm not going to get it like the week after, but I will when I start, because I've got bunch of tattoos I'm getting. When I do, that'll be one of them. I'm not going to
so you're not just getting it there, you're going to wait and okay, well, it's not really as good. But...
Oh, God, shut the fuck up.
Where are you going to get the tattoo?
I didn't sign a contract. Get out of here. It depends. Well, that's why I want to work out my other tattoos first, so I can get it in amongst that rather than get that and then I'm like, shit, now I have to get all my tattoos around it. Because I don't want a bunch of tattoos all over the place. I kind of just want them on one place, one area-ish.
Your forehead.
Which
Get them all on your forehead.
My left arm. I'm going to have 49-1 tear dropping out of my eyes. Brilliant. Anything else? I think we're pretty much done. So, guys, Nick, Loomer, thank you guys so much for coming on. I had such a fun time. It was really great discussion.
This is a good podcast.
To have with you guys and to touch on all the things we did. I think were really important. For the audience to listen to, for James, I feel a lot better about this whole Mentors Guild thing, or at least, I've got a new perspective on it, which is really nice. And just to have that open discourse is always nice for me. So
awesome.
Yeah, so thanks, guys, again. And we'll obviously, in the next, few months as Origins comes out, before and after, I'd love to get both of you guys on at different times or together again, and we can talk Origins more and things like that. Always love having you guys on.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
You're welcome, James. On your channel. Well, it's my channel. It's a ton of my vlogs. I whooped your ass in the multiplayer battle. Speaking of... Loomer, if you ever want, I would love to battle you in Assassin's Creed multiplayer. Did you see the one-on-one series James and I did, by the way?
I don't think I saw it, but I vaguely
You like
I don't
remember
know.
it was around.
Oh, dude.
should
And I
watch
think
it.
somebody might have been like, "Oh, 1v1 Tyler or James or something," and I was like, "What?" Or like,
dude.
"Well, what is
yeah.
the 1v1? Is it like manhunt? Like,
we did different
multiplayer,
games. We did different games, dude. Oh, it's so fucking hilarious.
It's
so
great.
I play this character because I told James we were organizing this multiplayer battle. It started off as a joke, then we took it seriously. But I've watched, I spent my whole life watching WWE and UFC, right? So I said to him, like, James, you're the big YouTuber here out of the two of us. You're going to be the good guy. I'm going to play the bad guy. So I'm wearing, like, my idea and concept was I'm sitting down, we're battling each other, and we've got, like, cameras on us. We did, like, promos, like documentary promos, where I'm just talking mad shit to him and doing training videos and stuff for it. And in the actual battle, I'm wearing a suit and talking about how good looking I am and how much better dressed everybody else that's watching. So, like I'm playing just some asshole bad guy character. He's actually the Dynamite. I'm Tyler. The Dynamite is that asshole that wears a suit and tries to talk shit to everybody. So on that, I was calling out like everybody and like, oh, I'm gonna battle this person, I'm gonna battle that person, I'm gonna do this. So like, if you watch it, just know he's a completely fake person, not me at all.
right.
Yeah. So, but it's just
really
hilarious.
fun though. It's so fun. I remember releasing those was so fun. Seeing everyone's reactions to it, being like who they were rooting for and everything. And obviously we knew who won and who lost. We're not gonna ruin it if anyone hasn't seen it. You gotta watch that.
And I narrate.
Yeah, and Nick was the commentator.
We'll see. I don't know if that quite fits with my style, but
I was just like,
pretty funny.
It's great. You should definitely check it out and give that a watch.
I did get endless death threats from that because people took it really seriously. A lot of people didn't know me, but I did tell James. I told James, I said, if I don't get like 40 death threats, I'm not going to be happy. I got, I reckon, almost 100.
That was a lot of people. So mad.
James, you're upset. You're really upset about it for a while there, because people took it really seriously. Were very upset with me. I have never.
So funny.
I've never in my life had more fun. I was so happy because when people were taking it super seriously and commenting, I was just antagonizing the fuck out of them. I was just like, oh my god, I was like, a good one. You're as bad as James. I was just, I've never had so much fun in the comment section. That was so much fun. I love getting hate. It's like my favorite thing in the world, especially when it's like not real. I'm like, I'm just acting. Like that makes it even better. It's like a compliment. I'm like, I didn't know I was actually any good at it.
Oh, it was great. It was one of the most fun things we've done.
It might be. Yeah, I don't know. I've already got the Splinter Cell Blacklist Uplay ambassador like tweeting like so much shit at me because like I'll tweet about Trump and he'll be like, "You're such a pathetic hypocrite." Like fucking.
Wait, really? Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Like, seriously.
I'm so confused.
I'm already in my own. I already was in my own little like WWE thing, except it was real, and I couldn't believe it was real. I think I'm a little.
I'm so confused. What happened?
Oh, it's just this guy. He was really cool. Like the first time I went to E3 in 2012, he was there for representing Splinter Cell Blacklist, which they announced at 2012 E3 or whatever, and we got along really well. And then just like randomly, like out of nowhere, recently, I tweet something about Trump because I think he's a fucking disgrace and a piece of shit human being. Like, and he'll like just all of a sudden pop up in my mentions, being like, "Oh, like." What the fuck's wrong this time? Like, why is Trump not saying exactly what you need to hear? Like, or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And I'm
oh
like,
Jesus!
I'm
So
like,
Trump
like
fanboy.
And I'm like, yeah, he's like hardcore, and it's like apparently like a really personal thing or something. And I'm like, yeah, I got
so
he like damn white supremacy, and he's like, well, where are you talking about? Like, where were you when like Black Lives Matter and all these other hate groups like did all these other violent things? Like, you pathetic hypocrite, like get over yourself. And I'm like, what the
my
fuck?
god,
like, this came out of nowhere. It's like my first real life like WWE, like, except it's like not fake. It's actually just this guy who was really cool, and then out of nowhere just started like being a dick.
Yeah, for sure. You can't hang out or be friends with that guy ever again because like. When you meet someone, it's like, yeah. I mean, this is a fun. I mean, James and I are politically speaking we talk about politics a lot on the podcast. We're pretty conservative people for the most part. But I mean, both of us think Trump's a fucking idiot. I don't think anyone. If you're a Trump fan, if you're like loving Trump, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what universe you're living in, that you're just like, nah, shit, he's doing a great job. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
But I mean, even if you disagree, I mean, there's a way to disagree with someone who I thought we like mutually respected each other and like we got along really well, and he like lived in Northern California, and then all of a sudden he just like turned into this completely different person. So I almost feel like, like it left me with such a sour taste in my mouth that something like even like a fake rivalry or something like with multiplayer, I'd be like, and I wouldn't want anyone to take it, like, seriously. But
I see what you're saying.
It's messed up. You can search through my like my replies or something.
I found it.
And it's just,
I found it.
You found it? Yeah,
he so says, like, weird. He's being so weird about it. It's like, if you're gonna disagree on something, at least respect each other. Like, why is he being so like, he's so mad about it?
Yeah, I didn't understand. It was so out of nowhere. It was weird. So it's like,
so strange.
And this is partly why, Luma, I don't think you'll know how much it means to me to appreciate the conversation we had today. Just to like, we may not all disagree, but just to have respect and discourse with each other means the world to me. So that's the here. It doesn't bother me if anyone doesn't, whether they like me, they don't like me, they agree with me, they disagree with me. If we can have like a real conversation and have respect for each other, that means everything. That means everything.
Yeah.
There's not enough of it today.
That's true.
I totally agree, and I appreciate like you guys having me on and that we can like just chat about these things like really respectfully and just even if it doesn't change your minds or anyone's minds or anything, it's cool just to sit down and chat like adults.
Yeah, always good to have a conversation about things, even if it's with someone. Like, that's why we had like someone like Yono. We wanted to get a mentor on, is so we can get different opinions. Because if it's just me and Tyler bashing on something, that's
what we do every other day. That's just normal.
It's not the point. Like, if there's something like this, we want to get people with multiple views on to talk about those things, and it's always better and more healthy to have that sort of discussion than just talk to people that agree with what you think.
Yeah. Cool.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Well, in regards to that multiplayer thing, I mean, I was just joking, but like,
I know.
I see what you're saying. My theory of it all was, I said this to James. I'm like, because I mean, I wrecked James's life, but he was never into multiplayer. Whereas I was like, when you and back in the day when it was a big thing, I was obsessed with it. When you guys were playing, I was playing as much as you guys were. Like, I was obsessed to the strategy of it all. So in my mind, I had other YouTubers that I was going to battle afterwards, and I don't know whether they'll happen. I know Brett wants to do it. I know for a fact, and I knew when I was going to battle James, I was going to win, because I know those games like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
My theory was I'm the bad guy. I'm going to talk so much shit to everybody when I'm winning, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I need to lose. This fucking asshole character needs to lose, and I'm like, there's no one I want to beat him more than you, Luma. Just some nice, genuine person that I know could beat him. I'm like, there needs to be the ultimate good guy that everyone can root behind, that can finally destroy this evil entity. Like,
oh man.
God, that would be like the ideal of having like the Dynamite beat me and then like beat the Creed who you were gonna find, like beat all these people, and then Luma comes out and destroys him for the good of the people.
What a world that is. That was in my mind, but I'm a crazy person that watches way too much UFC. So that
turn it all into a show.
Yeah, nothing. I don't do anything. I do is not real. It's all just a show. As long as I can have a laugh, I don't care what it is. All right, James, do you want to start wrapping this up? Go through the old, as we said, the Never Stop Selling, the Patreon?
As always.
As always.
Yeah, we can do that. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us, who's been watching and listening. If you want more of this, you can go head over to the top link in the description, or if you're listening on iTunes or something, go head over to patreon.com/as always. Pledge $1 or possibly more, but if you just pledge $1, you can become an As Always member and get exclusive podcasts every week the Kill Connor Club isn't on, along with plenty of other content that we just shove on Patreon whenever we feel like it, if we have other stuff to share, and early content depending on stuff that me and Tyler do together. And some of the people that have been pledging to As Always are Ben or Modorox, Quizhek, Sandbag, Josh Devillier, Xeno Rheao, Damian, Lumistrad, TheHumbleWorm, Nimbus, Seth, Tom Cunningham, Oscar, RAVJAI, Zach Neely, Son of a Bitch Ogeaidogo, Tyler Tranter, Yazen, Brendan, and Pink Flame 313. You sweet vintage lads, thank you for your support. Over and as always.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Once again, guys, thanks for joining us. Greatly appreciate it, and we'll have you guys on again very, very soon.
Sure thing.
And that's 3 years, James. 3 years we've been doing podcasts together, brother.
That's insane.
3 years. Oh, that's amazing. Love it.
Oh, goddamn. That's awesome. Well, great. We'll see everyone next week for Clubhouse, and then in 2 weeks for episode 55 of Kill Connor Club.
Amazing. All right.
Nice. Fantastic.
Bye.
See you later. Peace.
Don't say peace. I've told you not to say peace. I've told you every time. How many times?
I'm so happy I made that a thing.
I tell you every week, just stop saying peace.
You're welcome.
Stop it. You say it like that. It's not even that you're saying peace. You say it like peace.
When we sell merchandise with the word peace on it, you'll be fucking happy I made it a thing.
But it'll be PWCE, like peace.
Yeah.
Peace.
It'll be amazing.
So much
with a little peace sign emoji as well.
No.
The kids are gonna love it.
Please don't do that.